leader is the willingness to stick with a bold course of action, an unconventional business strategy, a unique product development roadmap, an impactful marketing campaign, even as the rest of the world wonders why you're not marching in step with the status quo. In other words, real leaders are happy to zig while others zag. They understand that in an era of hyper competition and non-stop disruption, the only way to stand out from the crowd is to stand for something special. Good morning, one and all. Please allow me to formally welcome you. On behalf of the Indira Group of Institutes, I, Neetu Randhava, extend a very warm welcome to our dignitaries for today. We are delighted to welcome our chief guest, Mr. Akash Surekha, Managing Director, JP Morgan Chase. Welcome, sir. Our guest of honor, Our guest of honor, Mr. Umesh Bansal, Executive Vice President, Z Entertainment Enterprises Limited. Sir has joined us virtually. And our very deserving awardees. And of course, it is our immense pleasure to welcome Dr. Tarita Shankar, Chairperson and Chief Mentor, Indira Group of Institutes, Dr. Pandit Mali, Chief Executive Officer, IGI, Ms. Madhuri Sathe, Chief Corporate Relations Officer, Mr. Raji Thomas, Chief Outreach Officer, and other Chief Executives of IGI and trustee members. I would also like to welcome our directors, faculties, and students of IGI. We welcome you all to one of the flagship events hosted by IGI. Ladies and gentlemen, the Indira Excellence Awards 2023. Over the next 2 days, we will be hosting the Indira Excellence Awards, the Indira HR Excellence Awards, and the Dr. Tarita Shankar Awards. Before we commence with our event, as a tradition at Indira, let us pay a tribute to our nation. I request everyone to rise in honor of our national anthem.
Punjab, Sindh, Gujarat, Maratha, Dravida, Utkala, Banga, Vindhya, Himachal, Yamuna, Ganga, Uchala, Jalati, Taranga. Tava Shubha Name Jage, Tava Shubha Ashish Mage, Gahe Tava Jaya Gatha. Jana Gana Mangala Dayak Jaya He, Bharat Bhagya Vidhata. Jaya He, Jaya He, Jaya He, Jaya 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 He. Bharat Mata Ki Jai.
Thank you all. The event over 2 days will feature a confluence of ideas, opinions, and insights of eminent business personalities from all spheres of the industry. Industry-academia interface has always been the strength of the Indira Group, and this mega event is a hallmark of the same. Our theme for the Indira Leadership Summit is Building Resilience and Agility, the Role of Leadership. Theme for the Indira HR Excellence Summit is the Evolving Perspectives in HR, a glimpse into 2023 and beyond. The Dr. Tarita Shankar Awards will be conferred upon chosen alumni from batch 1994 to 2008. Today, we will be hosting the Indira Leadership Summit Awards. I am sure The entire day is going to be very captivating and engaging as we listen to ideas and perspectives of who's who of the industry, and also express our gratitude for the amazing work these exemplary organizations and individuals have been doing by conferring the Indira Leadership Excellence Awards upon them. This year becomes even more special as stalwarts from across the globe come to India to address issues related to global economy under the G20 forum as India holds the presidency of G20 summit this year. A round of applause to our great nation that is achieving new heights with each passing day. It is only apt to start the Indira Excellence Summit and Awards by first saluting the most iconic and important brand of our lives, India. And for us Indirites, what follows after India is Indira. Since its inception in 1994, Indira has witnessed unprecedented growth, and the journey has been very inspiring. Under the magnanimous vision of our chairperson and chief mentor, Dr. Tarita Shankar, we have grown leaps and bounds. With a humble beginning of one institute, we today boast of more than 15 institutes providing quality education to students in various fields. Through this journey, we have faced many challenges and hardships, but with perseverance, courage, and dedication of our founders, we have survived and we have thrived. On that note, we would like to present to you an AV of our beloved institution, the Indira Group of Institutes. May I have the Indira AV, please? A great brand is a story that never stops unfolding. What glorious 30 years. Such is the incredible story of IGI. Before we move forward, may I please request our beautiful and charismatic Tarita ma'am to please say a few words on the occasion as we celebrate the Indira Excellence Summit and Awards. Ma'am, please.
Thank you, Neetu. You're doing a wonderful job as a compare today. Absolutely, you look amazing too, totally. A very good morning, everybody. And firstly, on behalf of the entire Indira Group of Institutions, we welcome all our guests today and our chief guest, Mr. Akash, and our guest of honor, Mr. Umesh, if I've got the names right. And of course, all our award winners today. Heartiest congratulations to all of you on behalf of the Indira Group of Institutions. When I sat with the guests and when she was welcoming, I told them that I am also a guest along with you. The reason I said that is because such amazing functions are always organized on various campuses, and I'm always invited over there. And the first thought that comes to me is, wow, they organize every function so systematically, so beautifully. Everything is so lovely, from from the screens to the flowers to all the arrangements. And I myself feel, I don't know where these people must be working day and night. I'm sure there are teams working till late nights, to achieve this excellence. So excellence is something, in any format that cannot be achieved overnight or, in a moment. It requires years and years of hard work and vision and executions. Only then excellence can be achieved. As you are all aware, and all the award winners, I would like to tell you that this year we stand in our 30th year. We have just celebrated our 30 years of, thank you so much. We just had our 30th induction ceremony last week, when the Honorable Higher and Technical Education Minister was the chief guest, and we just had our 30th Foundation Day on the 5th of September. So it is an amazing year, and of course, without excellence, we wouldn't be all standing over here, and you wouldn't be a part of this celebration. So thank you very much to the industry, firstly, for always supporting us, always being with us, always standing by us. And I must take this moment specially to thank Madhuri Sathe, our Chief Corporate Relations Officer. We've just changed our designation, so it's taking me a little moment, And of course, our CEO, Dr. Pandit Mali. These are all my colleagues who have been with me for more than 20 years plus. So they are the ones who are a very, very big part of this journey of excellence of Indira, along with, of course, all the other directors, teachers, and dear students sitting over here. So congratulations to all of you. I just wanted to give you one small message here today for all of you, and of course, all of our award winners sitting over here. I mean, one thing you all would agree with me, and why especially, because my last whole week has been a week which has been extremely exhaustive for me, mentally and physically, and I was really not feeling well yesterday at all because I was tremendously exhausted. And I called Madhuri and I told her that I call her Mads, pyar se, So I told her, Mads, I may not be able to come on the Saturday. Tomorrow I will surely come, but on Saturday I may or may not be able to come for the awards, though they are my awards, I know. But I realized that health is such an important part. If you want to enjoy your wealth, if your health is not good, no wealth is of any use to any of us. Everybody sitting here will agree with me, especially in the first row. And I realize that every day of my life. And so to students, this is a small message to all of you that focus on your wealth. Wealth is very important. Without wealth, none of us can live. Let's understand that fact. So if anybody says that money is not important, friendship and love, it's all blah, blah, blah. Money is very important. When money is there, that is the crux of the life today. And you're all sitting here because you all want to earn good money. Good education will bring you good money, but along with that, from day one, see that you focus on your health. Because if that health is not there, neither will you be able to enjoy your money ever, and neither will you be able to earn it better. So always see that your focus is on your wealth and your health. They both go hand in hand. And the earlier you understand this from this very age, I think it will make a big difference to your life and you'll be able to enjoy your life better. So keep this focus, keep going ahead, always believe in excellence and lovely life ahead to all of you. Enjoy yourselves, have a wonderful, wonderful 2 days now of the Indira Excellence Awards, and hopefully, Matt, I should be there tomorrow too, because I feel good. And thank you everyone. Once again, congratulations to all of you sitting in the first row. Many, many congratulations, and thank you for being with us here today. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, can you do please stay back as we move forward to the felicitation. May I also request Mali sir and Madhuri ma'am to please join ma'am on stage. First, we would like to felicitate and confer the Indira Leadership Excellence Award upon our chief guest, Managing Director, JP Morgan Chase, Mr. Akash Surekha. Requesting you to please be on stage as we start with the conferring of the Indira Leadership Excellence Awards upon our awardees. All right. Please put your hands together for Senior Director and Head of Supply Chain Operations, HP, Mr. Vinod Bhatt. The next award goes to Vice President, Head Supply Chain Operations, CDIT Division, Reliance Retail Limited, Mr. Atul Barve. A huge round of applause. Put your hands together for Senior Director, Delivery Integration and Operation Systems, AP Moller Maersk, Mr. Ankur Seth. Next, we have HR Director, the Lubrizol Corporation, Mr. Sumit Niyogi. Put your hands together for Director Business Analytics, Philips, Mr. Rajesh Kumar. together for Director and Head Analytics, Citibank, Mr. Srinath Jangam. Please put your hands together for Senior VP and Head Customer Analytics and Data Science, HDFC Bank, Mr. Kaushik Ghate. All right. Thank you all.
Good morning, everyone. So my name is Rajesh, and thank you, team here from the Indira Institute, and ma'am here for this award, and also for giving me the opportunity to meet my classmate after 22 years, Sumit. Really happy to be here and looking forward to interacting with you all. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Moving forward, before I request our chief guest to address the audience, I'd like to give a detailed introduction. Sir is a seasoned professional with a proven track record in global products and business development, coupled with extensive experience in P&L ownership. Sir's core strength lies in business planning and global strategy, covering products, technologies, sales, marketing, and partnerships. Sir's expertise extends to product engineering, product management, program management, and technology marketing. In the realm of global strategy, Sir has successfully crafted roadmaps for B2C web solutions and B2B enterprise digital solutions, catering to diverse industries such as BFSI, telecom, media, commerce, entertainment, healthcare, and retail. Sir is driven by passion and growth. Please join your hands together to once again welcome Mr. Akash Surekha, Managing Director, JP Morgan Chase.
Hello everyone, good morning. Good morning. Now that's better. I hope exams are not going on, right? All right, no, thank you so much. First of all, so glad to be here on the stage. Just let me tell you, the only place I'm nervous is when I'm standing in front of students. Because you guys are the superpower, we're just getting over now. So, by the way, I was supposed to talk on a separate topic, which was business transformation. And I was talking with Madhuri ma'am, and Madhuri ma'am said, no, we could talk on business resiliency and agility. This is where teachers know how to put students on the spot. Right? Talking about students, I was saying, right, every single day we are students. Even though we're getting old, I think in front of all of them, I may look youngest. By the way, I'm turning 45, so I'm not that young now. But every day, you're learning new and new things as a student, right? So it's always a pleasure to stand in front of you and impart some of the learnings, some of our experiences of what we have learned over a period of time. By the way, I've been in Pune from a long time. I've always been known Indira Institute. I've always kind of looked forward, towards Indira Institute, and I've seen the growth with my eyes of this institute from last 20-25 years. I came in Pune in 96. Came in Pune around 96. I'm an alumni of College of Engineering Pune, and always when I go from Pune to Mumbai, or when I'm coming from Mumbai to Pune, this is the most peculiar and most favorable spot I see. The institute is growing day by day, day by day. And so kudos to ma'am and all the faculty and the management group. So coming to business resiliency and agility, I was thinking, what should I talk on this topic? It's a very broad topic, by the way. It has its own nitty-gritties, it has its own complications, and it has its own implementation cycle as well. But I think let's try to divide this topic into three broad categories. One is resiliency in our personal lives. Right? So resiliency is only not related to organizations. Second category is obviously resiliency and agility in organizations and institutions like where we're coming from. And third is, most importantly, and what you're seeing today in what's happening in India, is the same concept to our country as well. All of this go hand in hand. And you can't separate out one and say it has no impact on other. Let's start with the personal lives resiliency. All of us sitting here, somebody is doing finance, somebody is doing marketing, somebody would be doing engineering and different other courses. Have you ever thought about what does resiliency means in our personal life? Anybody? Good hand. Entrepreneurial mind always are resilient. Anybody have thought, should I think about resilience in my life? By the way, I have never thought it. So, and I always believe that we were the most least smart people in those areas when we see all of you in today's world. Really honest. I think your brains have gone 10x than what we were at that particular point of time. But let's say I've not assumed resilience. What does it mean? Many times you start with, after education, I'll kind of leave around pre-education, because till pre-education you're largely supported with your parents, by your parents and your family, right? Post-education, you start standing on your own feet. And that's where you have to start thinking, what does resiliency and continuity means to me? Obviously, agility comes as part of it, but most importantly, have anybody thought, what happens to a particular industry you want to be in, and it suddenly doesn't work? COVID has been a great example, right? I think we all have learned from COVID. Some industry just died down. I mean, look at the hospitality and travel industry, by the way, where we were in that particular point of time. It just didn't exist for almost 2 years. Literally does not exist. We have seen our bookings, we come from travel background, by the way. My previous company, which got acquired by JP Morgan, I was the CEO there. So, no bookings, literally 1,000+ bookings in a day, and we have literally 0 bookings in a day, right? what happens if you wanted to excel, let's say a particular industry, there is no scope. What does that mean for you? Right? Even if you join an industry, after a particular time, that industry just goes for a toss, right? You don't know. For example, artificial intelligence coming up, right? All of us know now is the era of AI. By the way, I started my first company in artificial intelligence in 2011, and I was nominated as top technology pioneer by World Economic Forum. That was 2011, and I was talking about AI everywhere. Similar stage in US, in UK, in Europe, in India, and everybody was calling me idiot, to be really honest. But you've seen that's taken almost 10 years for AI to evolve and now starting disrupting a lot of industries. Many people are also saying that it's going to take a lot of jobs. And let me be giving you a very honest answer. Yes, it will take jobs, but it also create new jobs. Which means is, are you resilient enough in upskilling yourself, in improving and building your competency to be resilient enough across all of these calamities which may happen, the change in the trends of the technologies may happen, the change in the industries that may happen. So now, obviously resiliency will, in your case, in our personal life case, is very personalized context. We can't have a broader generic context to everybody because everybody has different dreams, different aspirations, different competencies, different skill sets, and so on and so forth. So you have to start thinking how do you build your resiliency. So you have to constantly upskill yourself. You have to be constantly aware more and more of different industries, right? I always say have a plan A and plan B. Many people say, no, you should only have plan A because otherwise if you don't have only plan A, you're not successful. Well, that's true as well, but it's always good from a practical standpoint. If you're emotional, you can always say only plan A, I'm only going to want to plan A and I'm going to be successful. Good enough. But as a practical aspect, you should always have a plan B. So what's your plan B? That's in a nutshell for you all to start thinking. My job is not to give you solutions, and this is what I do in a lot of organizations as well, is to just ignite you, just to trigger you, just to help you, and to invoke you, what should you think in some of those directions, right? So because we're sitting here, and you all wanting to listen, what does it mean for me? Obviously for organizations as well. So all of you have to start thinking, and for that, having appropriate knowledge and information is the most important aspect of this. And many times we are, as students, at least in my time, and maybe this would have changed over a period of time because of the access of information and the quantum of the information you have with you, you have to always think about what's next. Like, for example, in my case, I've always been doing backwards planning, or backward thinking. And this is a very particular philosophy in Amazon as well, by the way. Right? So if you've heard about Amazon, or if you've heard Amazon's founder talking in different forums, he always talks about backward planning or backward thinking. So in my case, I remember in 2003, I was telling your fellow colleagues who were coming with me, to the college, I always wanted to be a CEO. 2003. And I was giving this interview in front of Symbiosis College, by the way. I took a postgraduate diploma business management there after my injury. Unfortunately, I could not do the second year because I had to move to US. And they were asking, what do you want to do? That's the only question they asked me, by the way, for admission. I said, sir, I want to be CEO. I'm very clear about it. So the point I'm telling you is that if you don't have 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years thinking, not only in your career, but also in the industries you are in, and also what's happening around you, having that knowledge and having that future trends information is always helpful to know how those industries are going to go, how those categories are going to grow, what are the challenges which may come up, how the consumption may change, how may the supply chain may change, and all of those things together. And in the world of artificial intelligence, you can't say that I can't build these models in my mind, right? You have to build those models in your mind as well. People who are technical will understand what I'm saying, but that's all about if you want to compete with AI, you have to be more smarter and smarter, which means you have to think more and more, which means you have to look out at a lot of patterns, which means you have to look at a lot of projections and predictions, and then build models around it, and then figure out what's my resiliency. today, tomorrow, and the future. So that's about our personal lives. Makes sense, everybody? Everybody will have resiliency in your future now. Okay. The second category is organizations. I mean, thankfully, we have seen what COVID has done. Otherwise, it would have been very difficult to explain resiliency. I never gave importance. Don't quote this, don't record this. I never gave importance to resiliency in my life in previously. You never think about that in those times. COVID has certainly changed the way we think. How organizations have to be resilient, how organizations have to be agile. And for that, there are a lot of aspects, by the way, which comes together. Many times we feel that I want to be resilient to have sustainable revenues. What happens if certain section of demand changes or consumption changes and suddenly my business falls? And many times I've seen people are only focused on business resiliency, and when I say business, largely towards go-to-market, which is your sales and revenues and so on and so forth. But it doesn't stop there. That's one aspect of it. So if you see the pillars of an organization or a resilient organization, there are various pillars. And every pillar, as a baseline of an organization, even if they are not resilient, every pillar has to be resilient. What does that mean? One pillar is people, the most important part. If you don't have people, you don't have products, you don't have products, you don't have revenues. As simple as that. It all starts with people. Are you resilient in your people strategy? What does that mean? You have a CEO. What if CEO is not well for next 1 week? Health. If I'm not well, and I'm actually realizing it, thanks for bringing that out. At 45, I finally told my wife, I finally realized that I'm 45. And because I look slightly young, I used to tell my wife, whenever I go in the boardroom, I say, I am 40. I am 45. So that people don't kind of take me not seriously, right? So, but having said that, very important to look at people resiliency as the first. What happens, certain chunk of your team does not come for next 1 month because of COVID. Or new variant of COVID comes up, you don't see them. What do? You can't do anything if you don't have people in your organization. And imagine those people are somebody who is building a product, could be manufacturing product, could be an FMCG product, could be any product. If they're not in the factory, what they're going to build? If they're not in the office, what they're going to code? Right? So most important part, in my mind, always debatable, is that how do you build people resiliency in your organization? Right? So I think as you go and move forward in your career, always remember that if you are people-centric organization, which primarily I have been following as a principle in across my life, you have to make sure you have people resiliency, and it has various aspects. By the way, it's a people resiliency in itself is a very, very broad topic. As good as simple as that, succession planning. Many organizations I've seen, they don't have a succession planning in place. You have a chief executive officer, you have a chief marketing officer, chief sales officers, and blah blah technology officer in port. What happens? 4 people in a flight. You never know, right? So do you have the right succession planning in place? And it could be any reason, right? So, and then that goes to all the levels, by the way. It doesn't stop at just one level. It just goes. Now to do that, to become a people resilient organization, other than planning, you have to constantly impart knowledge, impart training, give them exposures, make them part of all other things what the management is doing. If you don't do that, you're not getting ready. Even if you have people, but they're not ready, what do you do? And if you're not getting outside, what do you do? Business is stuck. So people resiliency, everybody understood? The second part is your operations resiliency, right? Many times crisis happens. Sometimes electric goes down. Let's say this facility and electric goes down. In the event is live, what do you do? Are you resilient? And I can go again in deeper details about how do you make your operations as good as your facility resilient. And this is I've learned very nicely in JP Morgan, by the way. We as a company are a very resilient organization across all of these pillars, just not one pillar. We spend a lot of time culturally as a company to be as resilient as possible. which is as good as facilities, right? As good as, do you have right incidents management processes? Do you have as good as crisis management processes? You have as good as, security resiliency, as an example, and those things, like, so those are operational resiliency. Third, most importantly, and there are many other categories, I know I have a short time, important category is the business resiliency, obviously. By the way, what do you think, which is the most resilient, or give me 2 or 3 examples of very resilient organizations in India? Anybody? What do you think? Which is a good resilient organization in your mind? You may not have all the knowledge, you may not have all the expertise, but that's fine. You would have seen. Yeah, please go ahead. Tata Steel. I would say Tata as a group, right? And then Tata Steel, one of them, is also there. Why do you think they're resilient? Tata Steel, why do you think they're resilient? That's great. 5 years, and that's where agility comes in. Nowadays, that 5 years is becoming a year. Many places it's becoming even a quarter, right? But I think if it's a large organization, you have to be slightly lenient around that, because you can't move around, so many things in just one quarter. So that's fine. But that's where the agility comes in, and we're gonna touch upon a bit on that. Anybody else? Can I have some water? There are a lot of examples. India is shining. Anybody, quickly? Reliance? A resilient organization, right? Sorry? Reliance, yeah, correct. Sorry? Mahindra, okay. L&T, okay. Why do you think they're resilient? Anybody? Just because they're big, they're not resilient. Right? It does not, size does not define resiliency, by the way. If you see, let's pick up an example of Reliance, which I generally like, and obviously all kudos to the whole team and the founders, and Mukesh Ambani sir himself. If you see, their core businesses in past was textile, oil and gas, and those are like 2 broad categories, and obviously a few more businesses. What's happening to oil and gas? As we're moving green, right? The consumption obviously is slightly stretched, but of businesses of Reliance size, they have to think 20 years beyond. So they have to start building business resiliency from now. They can't wait for 15 years to go and then build resilience in just 1 year. It's not possible, right? Obviously, they've expanded in other businesses, which is where they are thinking continuously that what if this industry does not work? What's my next growth area? What if there is a problem in this area? What's my next growth area? Obviously, apart from expanding the business across the sectors, but that's also a result of becoming more and more resilient in the business what you are and what other businesses you can build. And if you see, across the businesses, they have a strong talent pipeline. TCS is a very good example, by the way. I really like TCS and Infosys examples because they have built a very strong talent pipeline across the board, top to bottom. And a lot of banks like us, all of these big companies, they truly know how to have business resiliency in different scenarios. And then how do you expand? How do you find out? How do you get the trends in place? How do you prepare? All of those, right? So those are 3 broad categories of resiliency as an organization. And obviously there are, as I said, every key pillar of an organization needs to have resiliency. And obviously every key pillar has to be agile to support that resiliency. If you have to build a resilience, you can't be non-agile. Because you have to be always on your toes. If you have to be always on your toes, you have to be constantly innovating. And if you constantly innovate, you have to agile. You can't have a waterfall model where you think, okay, you know what, let me wait for 3 years. Let me see what happens in 3 years. Then I'll figure out what to do after 3 years. Then I'll see the trends and then see what happens in 3 years. That's a waterfall model. Having said that, when somebody is now oil and gas is going to be an issue 20 years from now because the whole world is going green and there is a potential impact on the consumption of that, how do I become resilient from today and what's the next growth area for me? And you have to be agile. If you're not agile, and Reliance, even if it's such a big organization, it's a very agile organization by the way. And you've got 4G, he's already laughing from Reliance Retail, another guest of honor. But you know, every other industry they've been quickly launching. You've seen their 4G example, you've seen their 5G examples, you've seen a lot of their other initiatives they've done, Reliance Retail, Reliance Digital, and God knows, constantly agile, constantly innovating in the business, right? So that's what is a key pillar, and every other key pillar of an organization has to be thought in the similar fashion. Which is largely, are you doing backward planning? Largely whether your plan be in place. As simple as that, even if you don't want to make it more complicated. The third area, I don't know how much time do we have? 5 minutes? Okay. Country as a resilient country. Right? We all know India is the next superpower.
Yes, sir.
India is the next superpower?
Yes, sir.
That's nice. Thank you. You people are the one who are defining India. As simple as that. We're nowhere there now, to be really honest. I said we're already getting old. To make India resilient, what are we doing? G20 is a good example. Do you think G20 is a step towards becoming resilient? Right? You would have seen the messaging. And I've been hearing, I was in Delhi a month back and listening to Prime Minister Modi at a global business summit. And the theme of the event was resilient and sustainable India. For that, what are we doing? We are making our infrastructure better, right? Because to do anything on top of it, you need good infrastructure, as simple as that, period. If you don't have good infrastructure, anything what you talk about, you can't do. You can't move around things, you can't get around things, you're stuck at one place, your whole supply demand goes for a toss, and then you can't grow. So some of the initiatives like G20 is in the direction of becoming resilient. What does that mean? We are getting people from outside, building relationships with them, showing what India has to offer, showing what progress India is making, and making them convinced and influencing them why India is the next place to do business. Or maybe it's the only place to do business. Right? So that's one part of the thing. We are also building infrastructure. The second thing we spoke about. Third, what are we doing about our manufacturing? We're trying to do more exports, less imports. Why are we doing it? Because in COVID, we have seen everybody was extremely dependent on some other countries and it impacted everybody. So how do you become more resilient? So you do some of these things together so that you can support eventually making your country resilient, making your people resilient. Which goes back, if I want to close the circle back, is the people resilience. Because if you don't have your resilient country, your people can't be resilient. Can you? Anybody? Strong, no? Yeah, please, sir.
Earlier we were weak when these colonial people ruled us, and even before Modi developed it, Congress and they were not doing anything when I was small. But as we grew and the country grew, is developing. Means we are strong now. If we have strong defense, then nobody can attack us. We will develop, then China also.
Absolutely, yeah, right. Which means is we are making our people resilient. Closing back the loop is that if a particular industry does not work, you have other industry to shine. Right? I mean, if you don't have a job in IT because of AI tomorrow, you have manufacturing as a sector to take a job. And you can still impart your education there in different ways. You may have some other industry which may flourish in India and so on and so forth. Defense, space tech. Right? Today they are small. They're going to be as big as what the other industries are today. I mean, go 10 years from now, the space industry is going to be as big as any other industry. And that's why we're seeding all of those things, right? That's how we're making country as resilient. And which is where you people come in. you are the next powering hands, and you have to start thinking, how can you make your country resilient? You have to start thinking, how can you make your country resilient? You have to start thinking, how can I part of, how do you make them resilient? Generally guarantees the success. So I hope that was helpful for all of you. And I hope, ma'am, I did a justice to the topic. It was very hard. I was like, Madhur ma'am is gonna pakka give me a score of 2 out of 10 because this topic is so hard, to be honest. But before I wrap up, 3 other things I want to tell all of you, and I do this in any convocation ceremony where I've been invited as a chief guest. There are 3 pillars of being successful and to being resilient is also how kind you are, how empathetic you are. And that means a lot of things, by the way. India as a country would have seen culturally, we have not been very aggressive because our roots, our upbringings are like those. And we've always been shant, calm, peaceful, unless somebody really triggers us in different ways, right? But being supportive and being kind is the most essential characteristic of being resilient. And you've seen in COVID, right? I remember in COVID, I was also mild to severe, kind of in between COVID patient at one of time. But the most important thing of making my organization resilient, as part of that roadmap, the most important thing I was focusing on, how can I save lives of people? First and foremost thought in my mind, every morning when I was waking up, how do I save lives of my people? How do I take care of my people? How do I support my people in my organization? So even if I want to be resilient, but the characteristic which required was to be supportive and was to be kind. So I think we as a country, we are generally very supportive. We are also very kind. But many times when you are young and you are growing at a fast pace, we tend to slightly neglect some of these principles. One of this is kind and being supportive. So I strongly urge that as you move forward in your career, in any organization, in any country, wherever you are, be kind, be supportive, be humble, be empathetic. As a key principle, if you want to be resilient yourself, and if you want your country to be resilient, right? The second part is also this: how do you take care of people who are in need, which also is related to support, but in a different way. Obviously, we as a country, we have large poor population. We as a country have a lot of needy people, right? So how do you inculcate this habit of being supporting to those people? Because that goes back in the economic cycle anyway. So if you support people who are in need, if you support people in any other way, they're gonna get some means of standing on their foot and be slightly able to do something in their life, right? So it's very important that you constantly think, how do I support poor and needy people and what can I do for them? It could be monetary, by the way, it could be non-monetary. There are many people who support in those areas, even non-monetarily. So you should be very clear in your mind that you don't have to have a lot of money to do that. Even non-monetary help can trigger somebody. I mean, you go and educate somebody, no money required. But if you educate somebody, even 25% of what you have achieved in your education, that's going to help that person to do something in the life. That person is going to able to earn something in life, and that's going to support your country economy anyway, even to a smallest bit. And with a population of our size and the large population of it in that category, it's going to impact our country in a very different way altogether. One area. The last thing, which is closer to my topic because I have 2 cats, thanks to my wife. She's a cat lover. She had 15 cats and 2 dogs. And she settled with me at least with 2 cats. I can't have 10 cats. But I have realized this, how important is to support even animals, by the way. And you know what? Supporting animals is a bigger characteristic and a larger heart than supporting humans. It really requires a lot of work. It really requires a lot of alignment with the pets and the animals. And it requires really a large heart to be out of your box and zone to help and support them in different ways. So I would say when you think of all of this, I want to leave this with you, that be kind to animals. And many, by the way, many times we don't know God resides in humans, but also in animals. In fact, as per our culture, gods reside more in animals than humans. Okay, but I don't want to emotionally blackmail you on that. It's the matter of how do you become empathetic towards humans and animals, which helps you to become more and more resilient. So I'll take a pause and end on this, open for questions, but I hope this was very helpful. And I'm always available to talk in the future as well and to help you in any ways. Thank you so much. Do we do Q&As or? Anybody, any questions? Yes.
आपने जो अभी बोला that animals are more than human beings, ऐसा क्यों बोला आपने? I don't know.
नहीं, मैंने ऐसा बोला कि ऐसा मुझे लगता है कि एनिमल्स में गॉड्स ज्यादा रिसाइड करते हैं वर्सेस ह्यूमन बीइंग्स.
और हमारे हिंदू वर्ल्ड में भी animal god है.
That's a good point. Thank you for supporting. And if you see, most of our gods, you will always see one animal associated with the god. But many times we ignore that fact. Right? So they're not with humans, they're with animals. It's a small observation, but you know, it always helps. Anybody else? Any other question? Okay, which means I maybe have done a good job and you can score me well out of 10. But thank you so much and you have a nice day.
Thank you. Our next speaker is our guest of honor who has joined us virtually. Before I request Sir to take over, I'd like to give a brief introduction. Mr. Umesh Bansal, Executive Vice President, Z Entertainment, is a results-driven executive with over 18 years of diverse experience in strategic leadership, business development, and content production across the media, finance, and corporate sectors. Currently, as an Executive Vice President at Z Entertainment Enterprises Limited, Sir is focused on driving innovation and business growth. His expertise extends from establishing greenfield broadcast studio infrastructure to heading commercial operations and content production under Z Studios. He is passionate about strategic innovation, organizational transformation, and fostering collaborative partnerships for sustainable success. An absolute pleasure to have you with us, sir. Thank you so much for joining us virtually. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. I would like to start with thanking Dr. Madhuri Sathe for having me here. The most exciting part of me accepting this invite was to try and get an opportunity to interact with young minds. Unfortunately, I could not be there in person, but that's something on my bucket list now. I would love to come down to the campus and meet you students at some point in time. My apologies for doing this virtually, but I would like to take take up from where Akash left. I think he ended with some discussion on animals, and it completely resonated. एक कहावत है जो मुझे उनकी बात से याद आई, ना जाने किस रूप में नारायण मिल जाए. And I think that's what he meant as well. A large part of what I was looking to talk to you guys about has also been covered. And therefore, maybe I would like to delve a little deeper, go a little personal. I think a lot of technical stuff about organizational design or principles or theories that you could apply in your careers, your professors are much better placed at explaining those to you. Your professors are also much better placed at explaining them and giving data. What maybe I could contribute here would be some tidbits from what I have seen in my career. When I place myself in where you are today, I remember as an MBA students, our entire focus used to be on where's my first job going to be, what my career is going to look like. There would be periods when we were super confident. We had a good day, we had a good exam, we scored good marks, or maybe we went through a good summer placement, and suddenly the expectations from life as well as confidence would be up and high. But then there would also be periods where we would be skeptical, especially under peer pressure, or if there were cross questions from family, or maybe just as friends pondering over where we see ourselves. I think some bit of the way our career shapes is defined at the stage where you are. And it's important, therefore, to keep track of how you are looking at your future. I'm going to try and share a presentation. Just give me a second, please. My first suggestion or recommendation to students here would be to keep ready for change. I think it's very important for us to keep telling ourselves or keep benchmarking ourselves to the market. Today you are in an institute where you have a batch of 50 or 100 students with you. You are constantly being judged against each other, not just consciously by the institute, but also subconsciously by yourselves, by your peers, by your friends. You'll also see that the groups that we create around ourselves are very similar in terms of thinking, but also performance. Therefore, where your career goes depends on what skills you continue to acquire, what skills you continue to display, exhibit, and implement. The world is also changing very fast. With the internet coming in the early 2000s, the product life cycles have changed massively. A lot of products, a lot of business lines are starting to get obsolete. The World Economic Forum suggests that over 50% of the employees across organizations are in a need of reskilling and upskilling. We've also seen that organizations that put emphasis on skilling, and like Akash also suggested, those that are resilient have a pipeline of talent. The pipeline of talent comes in from continuous skilling and reskilling. But it is not the onus of the organization to only upskill us. Each individual is responsible for their own skill enhancement, for their own way of re-innovating themselves, and your careers are finally your responsibility, not the organizations. If you see how industries kind of employ people, how employment is generated, it's in the growth phase of the industries that they hire massively. You've seen right post-COVID, there was a surge in demand on the IT manpower. We knew people, there were discussions on things like moonlighting, there were discussions on attrition, there were discussions on why should people not be allowed to do two jobs. We reached a state where employees were coming out and saying openly, yes, we are doing two jobs at the same time, even if that was seen by some parts as unethical or seen as contrary or breaching the contract by some organizations. But that was because the demand supply gap was massive. The industry just boomed because the physical touch and personal communication declined. The need for remote and IT services increased. That created a demand which was not expected. The industry was not ready. The manpower was not ready. The pipeline of talent was not there. But we've also seen that has started to abate now. The reason is that the demand picked up, the talent was scarce. The moment talent started coming in, the demand actually started stabilizing. And right now, it's in the stable state. The growth rate is declining. Please do understand that there is a difference between a steady industry is equal to zero growth rate. So that will always seem to be at the bottom of the bell curve, not at the top. The industry employment is at its peak right after the demand has peaked, not before, because humans inherently will work with data points of the past, and we would be in the momentum of continuing to hire. So the moment you see that the industry demand is starting to reduce, you should, as an individual, focus back on your career, see how your skills are, and what can you do next. Just growing in the organization, a promotion after every 2 years is probably not the best choice. The second thing that is going to happen is takeover by IT now. We've seen a lot of AR, VR coming in. We've seen AI. Some of the innovation that has happened in the last 5 years is actually game changing. A large part of occupations that are done today, especially if they are done remotely, could be taken over by machines and could be managed by machine learning. But then there are also industries or areas that could define the future. And I'm just trying to suggest a few places that you guys could look at as a possible career option. And these could be in demand in the future as well. There's Internet of Things. We've been talking about Internet IoT for maybe 10 years now. But frankly, from a day-to-day perspective, there's been very little movement in it. Apart from the Siris and the Alexas, some bit of home automation, there's hardly that we are doing with Internet of Things today. The picture that we were shown, where you could control your entire life with Internet of Things, you're still far away from that. Having said that, the inflection points in technology are very quick. The product life cycles are again very quick. And once it comes, it's just going to take over very quickly. It's very similar to what ChatGPT did about 8 months back, where from nothing, we started to see this proliferation of AI-generated content. The second thing is the trillion sensor movement. If you see your phones, the device that each of us carry now, and it's become an essential part, it's become like a body part of ours. There are at least 5,000 sensors in each mobile phone. Apart from that, we are using smartwatches, we are using laptops, we are using tablets, we are using smart TVs, we are using home automations. Everything has sensor in it. The sensors could be the gyroscopes, the telescopes, the camera sensors, the proximity sensors, the gravity sensors, humidity, moisture. Now the Apple Watch has your heartbeat, your blood pressure. Then there are sensors that could identify if a person is in trouble. there is no limit to where the sensors can go. We are reaching a stage where nanotech or nano-sized sensors are getting created, and there have been speculations and conspiracy theories about how they could be weaponized, etc. But I think from a career perspective, this is the industry that you could look at a future in. AR and VR, I already spoke a bit about it. Again, taking over a lot of functions in the industries. There are other industries like 3D printing, another industry that we've been speaking about for quite some time, but not yet been able to bring to action. Driverless cars, I'm sure we all have heard a lot about big companies, the Teslas, the Googles, etc., doing all kinds of experiments with driverless cars. And there have been reasonable progresses in this area. Drones, we know Amazon has even started pilot on delivery by drones, but that's not the only thing that flying drones are being made for. There's much, much more. I think the theme across all of these industries is technology. The education that you guys are getting here is in management, but that does not mean you should be away from technology. You can even manage a technology company. Please understand, and I've seen this in some places where students say, I'm not from IT background, therefore I've done an MBA. Technology today is a part of your life. You're carrying mobile phones, you're carrying tablets. You cannot ignore technology if you want to be ready for skill sets of the future, unless you want to go back to the traditional industries of plain vanilla manufacturing or maybe trading. But even there, you would be a recipient or a user of technology. Trading is now done on platforms. Manufacturing is done by automated machines. The handicrafts business cannot compete with large enterprises beyond a point. You can't get scaled. You need automation. For automation, you need to understand technology. You need to embrace technology at the least. Coincidentally, unfortunately, the skills that I was wanting to suggest to you here, the first one is precisely what Akash also spoke about, adaptability and resilience. So I'll leave that. The second piece, I believe, emotional intelligence is one of the most important pieces, and it's a key success factor for any individual. When we move out of our campuses, when we are having a few good days at campus, maybe getting the first placement, maybe getting the summer placement done, we have tasted success. And there are no specific failures that affect us individually. But once you are out in the market, once you are out making your career, I think the need for balancing your mind is extremely important. Every person is at a different state of emotional maturity. I would request that each one of you should keep a track of what your emotional intelligence level are. The EI needs to be stable. There are simple techniques like meditation and breathing exercises that do keep you balanced in a balanced state of mind, that keep stress away. Please ensure that your emotional and mental health is of primary importance. That is the first priority. If you are emotionally stable, if your mental health is right, that is the only time when you can take care of your family, which should come first, and then of your organization and your employees, which comes in that order only. Third piece, digital literacy. Like I said, technology, we use it interchangeably with DI, DA, an entrepreneurial mindset. Now, it's not necessary that you have your own business or your startup to act like an entrepreneur. A lot of people that you would see that have succeeded in organizations, even in large organizations, my personal experience has been that while they are working on a job and they are being paid for that service, but the mindset is not a service mindset. The mindset is an entrepreneurial mindset. A lot of times we call these individuals as intrapreneurs, which means entrepreneurs who are working within the organization. And I think that is something which sets individuals apart. While there is capability, while there is intelligence, etc., but it's finally the mindset and attitude that takes you ahead. So what is an entrepreneurial mindset? I think there are two very basic attributes to entrepreneurial mindset. One is ownership, and second is problem solving. If you own the problem, you solve it. Rest of it in terms of capability, capacity, etc., can be acquired, can be skilled, can be learned. But I think it's the mindset that you need to have to acquire some of those skills. Finally, being ethical. You guys are all coming in from professional education. It is very, very important that you maintain your ethics at the right space. There are a large part of businesses which had started quite early, maybe 70s, 1970s, 1980s, etc. At that time, India was in a different zone. We were in license Raj. There was no automation, no paperwork. Whether you call accounts or you see stock markets, everything was manual. In fact, the recent release Scam 2003 and before that Scam 1992 is a excellent example of what people could do when processes were very manual. Right now, that's not the case. Please be assured that with your devices, with your online presence, etc., everything can be tracked. Everything can be tracked. So if you're not able to motivate yourself to be ethical enough, please be fearful enough that you need to be ethical. Finally, a quick bit on how you could see your career from here. I think when we are in campus, at least me, my batchmates, or some of our juniors and seniors, my experience was that we were exiting campus with a viewpoint that hum dunya badal denge. We'll do big stuff. The companies come to campus, they treat us like God, they give us value. We feel as if the companies are so very much invested in us, and they are not. But once we join the companies, there is a bit of disillusionment. The reason is that you become one of 50,000 employees there, and you realize that the company values you, but they value another 50,000 people too. And then you have to start working from the bottom of the pyramid. You're not joining at the top. Therefore, you're not in a decision-making position. You're supposed to create, do research, to create presentations, to create analysis, give data, collate data, work on large data sets, etc. And we realized that, at least my observation was that more than 70% of the batch that goes out, everyone after 6 months is in the market looking for the second job. I want to assure you that your second job might give you a bit of a financial incentive, but from a work environment, it's only going to be as good as the first job. It is only when you reach the second job, a lot of people realize it's the same thing. And that's where they start to get into the acceptance mode. But the earlier you get into the acceptance mode, the better for you, because then you are thinking long term, not thinking 6 months. Hence, if you can make the best out of the first job that you get, I think that could lead to a very stable and a significant shift in your career trajectory. Please align your decisions to long-term goals. Like I said, short-term might be able to generate profits in the, you could see short-term profits, but finally The people who remain in the market in the long run are the ones who create wealth. All the decisions you make, especially, and I again refer to what we saw a few years back or a few months back in IT, attitudes towards, say, moonlighting, being loyal to an industry or loyal to an organization, etc. In the long run, they matter. As employees, we want our organizations to value us, and it is our responsibility and our duty that we give the respect back to the organization. As long as we are respectful to the organization, I think our decisions would not have any adverse long-term impact. These are some behavioral traits. Whatever you see on this slide or whatever I've spoken in the last 5 minutes, I think these are more behavioral, but these are the things that define you as an individual. These are the things that define you as a human being. And these are the things that will also define you as a professional. From my side, I think that's it. I wish each of you students the best. I'm glad I spoke after Akash. A lot of things that I had thought that I would want to cover, he already did, so made my job a lot easier. Thank you, Madhuriji, again, and thank you everyone for giving me this time. And my apologies for not being able to.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable words.
Please give a round of applause for Mr. Umesh Bansal.
Thank you, everyone.
Good morning, everyone. I, Aditya Mehrotra,
I, Diksha Baksode, management students of batch 2325, once again welcome you all to the
Indira Excellence Award 2023. We now have a panel discussion with some amazing panelists who will be sharing their knowledge on the topic Future Trends in Supply Chain Management.
As we all know, that supply chain management is management of the flow of goods, data, or finances related to the products or services. As it is a core part of the operations in any industry, it is equally important to keep up with the future trends in supply chain management. To provide further insights on the topic, let me introduce you to the panel for the day.
Our first panelist is Mr. Vinod Bhatt, Senior Director and Head Supply Chain Operations at HP. Next, we have Mr. Atul Barve, Vice President Head Supply Chain Operations at Reliance Retail Limited.
Next, we have Mr. Ankur Seth, Senior Director, Delivery Integration and Operational System, AP Moller Mers. The panel moderator, Dr. Mangesh Dande, Senior Faculty of Operations and Supply Chain at IGI.
Please put your hands together for our amazing panel and our very own panel moderator. Over to you, Mangesh, sir.
Hello. So, good morning, everybody. It's nearly afternoon now. A very great, excellent evening here, because what is happening now here, I'm really proud. Three fronts. First thing is that management has trusted me to be the moderator for this session. Yeah, thanks for that. Madhuri ma'am and team, thanks for that. Second is that this topic, supply chain management, is really dear to my heart.
I've done my PhD in supply chain itself. And third thing which I am proud of, that supply chain professionals, 3 of them from industry, hands-on experience, been felicitated. You saw the event started with the awards for them. So a big round of applause for. Now, if you see this collective wisdom which is sitting in front of you, all these 3 gentlemen are having a collective wisdom of more than 60 years. So 60 years of supply chain management expertise is sitting in front of you, and if you add 39 years of from my side, it is nearly 100 plus years. So you will be having the opportunity to hear from this 3 gentlemen and the moderator myself, spanning a wisdom of nearly more than 100 years of supply chain experience and wisdom. If you see, since the time we are born until the time we die, we are consuming products. In fact, I would rephrase it. Before we are born, we start consuming, and even after death, the consumption pattern continues. The journey of consumption continues. So each of these products which we are consuming, or the services which we are consuming, is having a long and unique supply chain of them. So this supply chain management actually is a very important subject. And if you believe me, it has been taught all across the world. All leading B schools in the world are teaching this as one of their core subjects. And even at our IGI Premier Institutes, we are having this been taught to our MBA and PGDM students. So this is a very important topic, and as my friends told us, in the beginning, that the topic for discussion is future trends in supply chain management. Yeah? So I'll just start the discussion with Mr. Vinod. The key buzzword, as everybody knows, is digitization. Everything is going digital now. Everything, the purchase transactions are going digital, payments are going digital, even the hotel bookings are going digital. So first question I would request him to address is, how is digitalization expected to transform the supply chain management?
Okay, hello. So good afternoon. Is it okay? It's a pleasure to be here with the entire the upcoming corporates, professionals down the line. So it's a learning for us also, I'm sure, right? Okay, but thanks for that question, Mangesh. See, I think I'll start by saying that supply chain is basically it's a complex business, right? Okay, it's like coordinating a sort of a rather conducting an orchestra across locations, people, processes, capabilities, right? And the whole idea is to get these strings together, right? I mean, bind them together. And that's why where I see digital plays a pivotal role. I'll maybe give some case examples very quickly, right? I think if you look at a lot of companies, I'll be a little biased toward global companies from where most of us come, right? Okay. There's very complex structures, right? For example, there'll be a lot of ERP systems across all the functions, globes, locations, right? Digital plays a pivotal role, how it integrates all these things together. And I think the case study is at my own organization, we actually deployed a ERP which integrated all the systems together, right? We are talking like 24 systems across, like finance, HR, operations, marketing, sales, whatnot. So it was very complex, right? Though it was doing its own job, but at the end of the day, the systems don't talk to each other properly, right? We invest a lot of time, money to integrate these things together. So there was a whole program which was deployed, which integrated everything together, which eventually not only brings benefit to the company, but to the customers as well, for which the whole essence is built up, right? Okay. A few other examples I would like to quote, which makes a lot of differences, how we look at integrating processes, right? So bringing the element of, and I think so I heard it from Akash did mention, right? How we talk of future trends, which is automation, right? Be it AI, be it machine learning, robotics, right? And I think a lot of companies, I'm sure my panelists will also agree to that. We do that in day-to-day operations, right? How we bring robotics in, how we take the manual stuff out of our domains, right? And let the resources focus on their core competencies of driving sales, engaging customers, bringing more value, right? Okay. A good example can be the orders which come from the customers, how we actually get them electronically, right? So the whole stuff of manually getting the purchase orders, processing, punching it, and everything is all fast, right? So these all really, so this is where the systems talk to each other, the customer system as well as the company system, right? So the order just goes, and we call it as a, in a supply chain world, we call it as a frictionless matrix. So there's no touch at all, right? So these are some good examples of how digital brings a lot of, sort of merits to the company. Yeah.
Any other examples you would like to share where digitization has really helped the customer, end customer?
Yeah, so like I said, this example, what I just cited, for them, it makes sense because they don't need to bother about following on the orders, right? For example, so once the order is in and right up to it is executed. And I think the essence of supply chain is not something which starts by order or quote or delivery. It's right up to we call it in a corporate world a quote to order, right? Quote to cash, right? Until we deliver and get the cash or collections back in the system, right? Back to a point, I think so. I can also cite one example where once we deliver a product to the customer basis the order, right? Okay, the second portion comes where we actually need to submit the invoice or bill him, right? So that it gets registered in own system.
Right.
This is where there's an automation has come, and I'm sure a lot of companies do that. Everything is done through a robotics. It's like a bot, okay, where I'll give a live example where the logistics provider goes and delivers a material to a customer, right? His product, and there's a POD which comes in. That POD is actually uploaded in a shared drive or a cloud. A bot actually picks up those data. Okay, it merges with the data of the company, right? The documentation, shipping, and creates a whole documentation which actually is an integrated submission to the customer, and that is automatically uploaded to the customer's portal. So all this hassles of sort of following on the documentation, and mind you, India is one of the places where we have to be extremely sensitive on regulatory stuff, right? Be it the GST and compliances, trades, and everything, right? Unlike probably other countries where it's very seamless. So the bot plays a very important role. How it actually drives through all this, compliance aspects as well. Yeah.
Great.
Which helps both sides of the field.
Yeah. The second question which crops in our mind is about hand in hand. This internet word has been used now everywhere. Internet is coming up. So my second question to our Mr. Atul, I would request to throw some light on this impact of internet. Of course, digitization is going hand in hand, but we would like to hear your perspective on this use of internet and how it's going to impact, rather how it has impacted the supply chain industry over the last few years.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here amongst this intelligent crowd, future corporates, and thanks for this opportunity. So I would like to, obviously, internet is not something new which has come up. It's obviously there in existence since long. But kind of penetration we have seen in last 10 to 15 years is amazing. You blink and miss it. I think the technology has gone so advanced in last 10 to 15 years, is that if you are not kept the pace with it, then you would be missing on very important aspects of business. And we have seen many businesses have gone down because they have not kept it with the pace with which the industries and overall ecosystem is growing. If you have seen the way we used to do it from supply chain perspective, the way we used to do the demand planning, we used to earlier call it S&OP, sales and operations planning. Now it has changed to S&OE, sales and operations execution. We have seen the way the big data and analytics have started helping in overall demand planning. And also at the same time, you have seen so much of penetration of internet, mobiles, and data points everywhere, wherein you are connected. You are earlier, maybe my fellow colleagues, panelists, and you can also correlate. Once trucks used to leave from one warehouse, for getting the whereabouts, you have to call him, right? Now with the technology, you know where exactly it is, how much time he's spending in between, how much speed is covering. So there are so many data points which are available. You have real-time visibility of everything, and that's amazing. And last couple of years or 3 years specifically has actually contributed very heavily into development of supply chain aspects in totality. Um, this pandemic actually puts us into a spot wherein the traditional supply chain, the traditional planning process, the traditional execution processes no longer worked. We had to think of something else and look at how we can incorporate those in our real worlds. So the way we used to do the demand plannings, like looking at historical data, looking at forward-looking business, looking at our annual operating plans, that has gone for a toss during the pandemic. So what came to rescue is the analytics. Looking, I mean, in fact, in my previous organization, what we did is we actually looked at, because in the way the pandemic was rising, we actually mapped down the pattern on how it will go in all 500 plus districts of India, and we changed our demand plan. We changed our supply network accordingly to ensure that we will have products at right places and we will not get overstocked or understocked at any of the locations. Similarly, you will see in globally there is a huge change. Globally, uh, uh, if you look at electronics industry, semiconductors, we had a huge dependency on a couple of countries,
Right.
not for India, but for the world.
Yeah.
And when this pandemic happened, we saw that this whole supply chain has collapsed, wherein we have seen that the chips which we used to get in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, the lead time has gone up to 12 months,
Yeah.
14 months, and that whole industry has gone into different shapes. So now, if you've seen, almost every country, including India, everyone has started thinking on that, started building those ecosystems, and you will see semiconductor manufacturing, chips manufacturing coming in different parts of the world. That's how the global ecosystem is also changing. The manufacturing, which was, I think everyone has understood that it is very important to be self-sufficient during such pandemic, such days. This business, the risk management has become a very, very important aspect of supply chain in last, that is being taught by
Yeah,
to us in last few years.
right, right. So anytime, internet has always been a help to you, but anytime in your past history you have come across certain experiences where internet has literally crashed your systems.
See, obviously, you will always have something called as BCP in any company, right?
Yeah.
Business contingency planning. You will always have such examples, and that is in my day-to-day life, because we have vast network. I have more than 75 different warehouses across the country, and being India is a it's developing country. You will
Yeah.
have road constructions or something going across, and you will have fibers getting cut,
Yeah.
and internets and other facilities are getting down. But I feel we have come a long way, wherein obviously if your primary lease lines are down, you have different ways and means to manage it.
So you have
Obviously
plan B also.
yes. So I think nowadays it has become much robust than what it was earlier. Earlier, even power failure used to cause a lot for manufacturing industries to go down. But nowadays there are a lot of solutions which are available, with which the things are getting managed.
Yeah. Now, Mr. Ankur, I have a question from you, because in the morning also we heard from two speakers that resilience and leadership. Yeah, and you are one of a personality in your organization who are driving this initiatives of leadership and resilience. So can you just throw some light and insights for the students to understand that how this is important and how supply chain is really looking forward to change in leadership styles and this reporting structures, especially in your organization and in your past organizations?
Sure. So let me start by correcting the operative word from driving to facilitating. So
Yeah.
I don't consider myself driving anything in my company.
Okay.
I truly consider myself and a lot of my colleagues to facilitate change, to facilitate growth. And again, speaking of leadership resilience, right, or people resilience, it's very hard to match with what Akash shared in the morning. But maybe I can just double click on a few things he spoke about resilience, right, and people and leadership resilience. So, it's a lot about making a choice of becoming this fixed, very functional, fixed expertise leader versus trying to be a leader who constantly wants to learn and is curious and wants to adapt.
Right.
And increasingly, especially in our industry and most industries, right, with COVID, with multiple contingencies in the last so many years, we realized that there is no fixed leadership style that can sustain us in every phase.
Right.
I mean, in our industry itself, COVID actually was, for the business, was a great benefit. We made tons of money as supply chain, and we enjoyed huge profits and huge cash flows.
Yeah, in
Equally
fact,
so,
your sector was the sector which was more actually promising in those 2 years.
from a top line perspective.
Yeah.
But equally so, it was a very challenging environment because of the congestions, because of the blockages, etc. Right? So
Right.
it required a leadership fabric, which was a lot about change resilience, and there's a lot about for a lack of a better word, firefighting and coming out of that situation and helping our customers, right? But now suddenly, in the last, I would say, 8 to 10 months, the tables have turned again. The demand is actually significantly lesser than the supply, because like us, most of our competitors started pumping in so much capacity in the market, right? So the tables have turned, the price wars have started, the margins have shrunk, and it requires again a different leadership fabric, right? And the kind of unlearning and learning we need to do, and I'll probably just share 3 or 4 of my own reflections. Leaders in today's generation have to move away from command and control to that being of servant leadership. The concept of servant leadership is so much more relevant than ever before. It's not about always leading from front or leading by example, what we were taught, at least in various universities we went to, right? It's a lot about truly enabling and empowering people in our teams to have a point of view, to link them to the larger purpose of the organization, to enable them to contribute directly to the purpose of and the strategy for the company. It's a lot about coaching. It's a lot about listening than talking.
Yeah.
And listening is also important to understand the ecosystem, the environment, and then being resilient enough to adapt to and address that environment, right?
Right.
I think it's also a lot about trying to learn how to work in a very collaborative ecosystem. It's no longer about this whole obsession we've always had about competition. Actually, you're not competing with anybody in the company. You are actually not. And I hope that's what we are also inculcating as culture in the universities. And I get very excited looking at all of you. And my own daughter goes to an IB school. And I really love the fact that how they're taught to compete with your own selves and not with anyone else. And this is very important, because if you stop competing with each other in the company, then you truly start collaborating well towards the common purpose. You celebrate each other's success. You actually create that culture. And it's not about the company creating culture. It's all of us who create that culture of truly working together, hand in hand, looking out for each other, and going out there and actually sometimes even collaborating with competition. We've seen many examples in our industry.
Yeah, that is another thing which is happening now.
Which is super important, because clearly it's a very fragmented space. It's a space where we together define the pricing in the
Yeah,
in
that's
the industry.
another thing which is coming up now, this collaboration between competitors. Yeah.
So it's no longer cool about just me being better than you, right? It's a lot about what am I better than myself? Am I better than my version 2 years back, right? And I think the last part is very, very close to my heart. Is also about stability. How important stability is for being resilient. I think on one hand, I'm extremely excited about how clear you all are about what you want to do in your lives. And I think Akash alluded to it, and none of us were so clear. I had no clue what I wanted to do when I was growing up. You guys are so much more clear. You guys have so much information. You guys are such, achievers. And that's fantastic. And I see that in my niece, nephews, my young cousins, right? They're all doing so well. But equally so, I do see this generation getting a bit more bored a lot easily, a lot faster. Guys, stability is important.
Yeah.
It's very cool to say that I really only want to pursue my passion in life, but then in the real world, you probably only get 20 to 30% time to follow your passion. You will have to learn how to go through the grind of that 70% in which you may not think you're following your passion, but it's about that stability, which gives you the license to do the 20-30%, which is cool enough and which is really following our passion. So I think some of the experiences I've had just around this whole concept and double clicking
Yeah,
on
thanks.
resilience.
Vinod, I would like to hear from you about another buzzword which is going on, and that is really, really crucial for the whole world, and that word is sustainability. And as people know that all supply chains are having their negative impacts on environment. So how at your organization you are dealing with this? The word sustainability, and how in the long run you are planning, having certain plans to have your carbon footprints reduced.
It's a great question. So I think we heard a lot of live lessons from Akash, Tarita, and obviously our friends here, right? Um, I think sustainability is going to be very critical. What I feel is, I strongly believe it's at the heart of every company, every business, right? And it's just not about giving back to from where we come, right? We giving back to society, community. I think it's a much broader thing. And if I define sustainability into three pillars, right? It's all about the planet, people, and community, right? So when I talk of planet, we're talking about this climate change, and everyone is aware of that. I think so. It's all there in the public domain. How people strongly feel about that. What is the companies doing about it, right? So a good example is how we remain committed to reduce the carbon footprint, right? How we do that by driving sustainable approaches. For example, avoid air freight, go more with ocean freight, and a friend will be very happy with that, right? From works. So air freight leads to the other thing, and I could say that with much pride, and I think it's really great to share here in this podium, right? And if I talk of HP, almost 100% of our products have got recycled
Yeah,
materials
that's
in that.
the sister word which normally
Yes.
we use, that circular economy.
Circular economy,
Yeah,
right?
so
yeah,
can you
absolutely.
just throw
So
some
I'll
light, any
elaborate on
concrete
that.
examples from your
Yeah.
side?
So the point I was making about how we use recycle materials, right? So the ocean plastic waste, right? So it's there in
Correct.
our products, right?
Yeah.
Or packaging is 100%, recycled materials. Circle is nothing but all about how round the circle back. For example, we have the products in the market, right? Okay. And those are eligible for recycling. For example, if I give an example of our print products, right? Our cartridges, right?
Right,
Okay.
right, great.
So these, if it is not disposed, it is not put back in the system in the right manner, it has got a big exposure, right? So HP has got a planet program, we call it, where we take a free program where all the cartridges accumulate from the customers, partners across the ecosystem, then we recycle back in the system, right? And that dates back to the same point what I said. Every product what HP has in the market, okay, has got a sustainable item. The other thing, the other two pillars I talked about, just not about the climate piece, it's about the people, right? Okay, how you bring equality. The buzzword is diversity, sort of equality and inquisitiveness, right? That's very key out there, okay? And we hear that very often, I think so, and it's indeed a fact. In the 21st century belongs to the woman, right? Okay, all the ladies out here. So there's a lot of commitment from companies. I'm sure you would agree, right? How we have enough women employees at a senior level also. So
Right.
there's a strong commitment which comes from corporates, right? So and of course, a lot of focus on equality, right? I mean, diversity. And the last is the community, which is a pet project of, I think even we talk of Mr. Modi, right, for the current regime, the whole digital, how we actually, the outreach goes to every villages.
Yeah.
And our friends in Reliance, they made a wonderful, excellent job on the
Yeah.
5G penetration, right? And it's a success story which can be showcased to the entire world. So these are things, it's not just having great products in the hands of the customer. It's all about having the technology out there, right? And that's why, companies like HP, Dell, Lenovo, Reliance, we all partner together on this piece. So I think these are the key things from a sustainability perspective. And the last thing before I maybe let myself go is, it's a great opportunity for the sales team also. I'm sure a lot of your folks will
most
down
of
the
them
line
are.
become sales ambassadors in any companies, right? Okay, when you go and approach a customer, when you sell a product, when you talk of the product features, the sustainability element becomes a very critical thing, right? I mean, the pitch, what I said, the product, what you're going to put in the market, what you're going to use has got a sustainable element there, right? From a carbon footprint, from a recycle perspective. And just to share maybe some numbers, is I think almost like 60-70% of our revenues in HP, right, which goes to billions of dollars, has got a sustainable impact. Okay, that's how it is. So that's how the whole ecosystem sustainably works.
So that's a good figure actually, that's a good benchmarking. Now, two more important elements normally are discussed when we talk about supply chain, and that is warehousing management. And I would request Atul to share something on this concept of warehousing and what trends are observed in supply chain, because conventionally warehousing means godown hai bas, simple है godown है जहाँ material पड़ा रहता है, but it is not that one word, because a lot of investment is going on, number of warehouses, locations of warehousing. So we would like to hear from you, what are the different trends coming up in warehousing, what are your policies and strategies on that front?
Yeah, I think, as you said, we have come a long way from Godam or Godown to warehouse. So obviously, these are fulfillment centers now. We call it distribution center, fulfillment center.
Fulfillment
It is not
centers.
even warehouse now. And I think when we look at future of space on overall distribution cycle, obviously these centers play a very important role. You would have heard dark stores, which are coming in the city and wherein we are serving to customers. So what I feel is the agility is the most important factor in future of overall warehousing management or even distribution management. Gone are the days wherein we used to construct a so we used to construct a warehouse and it used to work for one company for so long. For example, in Reliance, when we are building the warehouses, when we are taking the facilities and creating a structure, we are looking at multiple dimensions. We are not looking, because I represent consumer electronics, but when I am designing the warehouse, when I am putting up a warehouse, I look at 5-year horizon, 10-year horizon, how it will help me, and what if I have to shift to, let's say, it has to a grocery DC or to a fashion and lifestyle warehouse, or the new brands, new cosmetic brands which are coming in. So we are trying to build that agility, which is most important in all our fulfillment centers, so that it cannot be just stuck up for one business, it can be used for multiple businesses. At the same time, what we are seeing is the network optimization. It's very, very important. Thanks to the infrastructure which is getting developed in India, we are seeing that the overall road the conditions and everything is much better, and the truck travel times, the distances are actually coming closer, not physically, but in terms of time, it has come closer. So in earlier times, if I need 50 odd, I need warehouses at 50 odd places, I need at 15 or 20 odd places, and I still be able to manage my service levels. We have around 19,500 pin codes in India. What we are aiming at, and with the kind of network we are developed, we are almost reaching to 95% of these pin codes on next day. So that is the kind of network which we are building. That is how we are utilizing overall the overall ecosystem for that. And last and most important thing, obviously, is the sustainability factor to it. Most of the warehouses, not only Reliance, I'm sure many companies are trying to reach to manage this sustainability, be it electricity, which is anyway the scarcity and costly.
So the concept of green warehouses
Exactly.
and all those
So
things.
we do have obviously solar panels everywhere. We are trying to use more and more EVs for our transportation of our goods, so that it will help in reducing carbon footprints, and also ensuring that the life of each warehouse will be long. So there are multiple dimensions which are coming in, and very, very interesting trends which are coming in warehousing. I mean, it's a vast topic. I mean,
We will
but
require
for
nearly-
sure, it's a different dimension altogether.
So your warehouses are located all across pan India, right?
Yes,
So
we do have.
the ownership is with your company, or you are having that 3PL concept tie-ups?
We do have multiple formats. There are
Both
certain warehouses wherein we have our own warehouses. We have 3PL. So
the majority is under you, or so the controlling part, how you are facing that?
So for Reliance, it's obviously every control will be always with Reliance. Obviously, is a primary employer. So, but at the same time, we do have different models. As I said, overall Reliance, if I talk about retail, we may have 700 different warehouses across India. What I handle is consumer electronics, which we have around 60 warehouses. So we have different models depending on business needs and depending on kind of services we wanted to extract from the warehouse.
Now, this concept of warehouse, we are treating them as they are rather fixed asset, but the most important thing which is flowing through the supply chain is inventory. And when we talk about inventory management and all those things, a concept or the most striking requirement is the visibility. So I would request Anku to throw some light on this, because this is the most important factor, the visibility of the inventory in the supply chain, which is spanning right from the supplier's end till the consumer's end.
So I need to be careful that two of my customers are sitting here. So I better don't boast a lot about the visibility we are creating as Maersk, right? Because honestly, we're not there fully yet, to be completely honest. So and we, by the way, we also help you with a bit of warehousing as Maersk. So this concept of visibility, right? It's very basic. All of us understand, and I think Atul spoke a lot about how in today's time it's a lot more visible where my cargo is, especially if the cargo is landside, it's in trucks. In the past, it used to be impossible to know where it is, but thanks to GPS and many other technologies, it's more visible. So the way we are seeing it at Maersk is, and speaking a little bit about resilience and the need for that we had to disrupt ourselves many years back. So we used to be a large conglomerate or a consortium of many companies, many businesses until 5 years back. We used to have a bank in Denmark. We used to have supermarkets in addition to shipping, right? And we actually divested a lot of our non-core. We used to have tankers and as well, right? So we diversified a lot of our business. We divested a lot which was not core. We also realized that ocean won't just make the cut for us to survive in the long run, right? Because it's such a fragmented space and too many players, right? So we already about 5 years back announced our strategy of becoming the global integrator of container logistics.
Right.
So we diversified in addition to ocean, it's the integrated offering, including warehouses, including trucks, including rail, air, middle mile, last mile in the D2C space. So as we announced that, it's been very difficult for us to figure out how we balance ocean and other products. And in one market, the integrator product sells a lot better. In other markets, we still have to be equally good with selling individual products as well.
Your strengths are in this ocean areas, right?
Historically, yes, but
Because
now
when we talk about, when Maersk comes to your mind, any gentleman or around this, any common man will say yes.
Of course, our blue vessels and also many brands we acquired, right, over the last so many years. But again, coming back to the whole visibility part, this integrator vision was the first step to ensuring that we start offering an integrated product to the customers. Now, obviously, the very basic to the integrated offering is visibility.
Yeah.
How leveraging the ERPs, that we spoke about with different platforms, how we integrate. So we're working, we're also looking ahead and working backwards also what we heard, right? So we have a 2030 vision of creating a flywheel concept.
Right.
When we say a flywheel, it starts with basic visibility. So all our customers, our aspiration in the next couple of years is all our customers should be able to see where the cargo is at one point in time, and not just having the visibility, but then actually be able for us to create recommendations on how they can change their supply chain process, how we create the flexibility. If you want your cargo to arrive much faster or you want to change the destination, then we should be able to do that for you. And we should also be able to then help you recommend how you spend your supply chains as HP, as Reliance, a lot better, what should be your supply chain spend. So we call it a flywheel model and almost like a freemium model. So we give you visibility for free, and then we can monetize some of the other features in that.
One common question to all three is everybody is going high tech, and many of the decisions, business decisions are making use of technology. So what are the recent trends in your organization where you are making use of this technology for your decision makings?
Yeah, probably I said that earlier as well, right? I think
this is the last question because we are running out of time. So this is
I'll be very quick actually, right? So I think so. It's about like I said earlier. I'll just repeat myself. So it's not about putting products in the hands of the customer. It's about technology, right? And that's why we all partner so well.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think the key thing, this all connects together, right? Be it when we talk of resilience, agility, sustainability. I think this all gels so well together so that, the right thing goes to the right customers at the right time. I think that's how it is. And I think last thing I would say that, I think so most of our business is all about, it starts with the customer, ends with the customer, end of the day, right? Okay, in between what happens is what we all talk about, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's why this technology plays a pivotal role, cutting across boundaries and, connecting to each other.
So there's no going back on technology. Everybody agrees on that. There's no second opinion. Yeah.
No, there is no
Your
second
opinion
opinion. For example, we have a big team of people who are working on artificial intelligence, and which is helping us a lot when we are doing our decision making, be it our network optimization, be it our forecast for next 10 years. I mean, there are multiple tools which have come in, and basis which we are taking our decisions whether to automate any certain processes in our warehouses, whether to automate whether to use our robotic process automation. So obviously, as a business, we have to look at ROI, the returns on investment. So for getting that done, earlier what we used to do in big Excel sheets and all, so that has gone down drastically, and a lot of tools which have come up, a lot of good companies, and I'm very proud that many of those companies are kind of conceptualized in India, and they are serving whole world.
Yeah, Ankur, please, your take on this decision making or using technology.
Actually, I won't talk about technology. You've spoken a lot about it. I'll talk about two fundamentals for technology to work.
Yeah, go ahead.
It is data and processes.
Okay.
If you don't have the right data engine flowing like water from the tap, then no matter what technology you implement, it's not going to work.
Garbage in, garbage
If you
out.
don't have the right standardized, and when I don't say one size fits all, I say if you don't have the right configuration of standardization, where customers get to choose what they want from a consistent list of drop downs, like the subway, right? You go to a subway, you have standard bread, standard dips, standard sort of offerings, but the customer feels he or she is getting a customized experience. You need that level of standardization in processes. If that's not in place, there's no tech that's going to work.
Great, thank you. So that was a snapshot, I would say, a very brief, in half an hour, whatever we could get. Just believe me, this friends from supply chain industry, two of them have come from the national capital, that is Delhi. They came yesterday just to attend this and share their knowledge on SEM, and Atul came from Mumbai, that is our state capital, and it was a great session. Just before we began, I'm sure the anchors, our friend anchors, said that supply chain is talking about the three flows, that is material flow, goods flow, then money flow, and information flow. But after this discussion, we definitely have a lot of more other takeaways, that supply chain is beyond these three flows. It is talking about digitization, it is talking about technology, it is talking about making use of AI and all those things. Thanks a lot for being here. It was a nice decision. Thanks. Discussion was really, and I'm sure students will have a lot of takeaways from this. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
From digitization to sustainability, warehousing management to fulfillment centers, it was indeed a pleasure to listen about the future trends in supply chain management from collective brains spanning almost 100 years of cumulative experience.
Thank you, panelists, for sharing your valuable insights on the topic. Now, we will be moving for the next session of the day.
The speaker for the next session is HR Director for IMEA, India, Middle East and Africa region with the Lubrizol Corporation, a Berkshire Hathaway company. Sir is also Interim Managing Director for Lubrizol Advanced Material Business in India.
Sir is a HR leader with 20 years of work experience in HR consulting, HR business partnership, and retail sales and marketing. Sir has completed PG diploma from Accelera Jamshedpur, and Sir is a doctoral scholar with SP Jain School of Global Management.
Sir has worked with Reliance Industries Limited as Vice President as a part of their HR leadership team. He has worked with Cipla, Hewitt Associates, and Bharat Petroleum in the past. In his previous stint with Reliance India Limited, he has worked as the head of HR Capability Development Center of Excellence. He has also led HR business partnership for Nagothane Manufacturing Division for nearly 3 years.
Sir will be speaking about emotional intelligence and leadership. Please join us in welcoming Director HR Resource, Lubrizol Corporation, Mr. Sumit Niyogi.
Right. So, good afternoon, folks. Okay, still alive, right? Right. So, I do still have the honor to address you. Just some where we do still have some time to go for lunch. Just a quick check. 20 minutes, right? 20 minutes. Okay. Okay. Right. So. Emotional intelligence and leadership. So I was talking to one of my co-awardees. First of all, thank you for the award. It's I do take it as a important recognition for the work that me or my organizations would have done in the last few years. I was talking to one of my co-awardee about why this topic. Did you choose it? I said no. I asked the team or organizing team, what are the topics you want me to speak on? I was given a list of 12. I gave 3 choices. Obviously, all 3 were taken. So then I said, you decide what you want me to speak on. So I've picked up this topic, and we'll keep it a bit interactive because it can become a bit heavy, when it comes to emotional intelligence. And one of the speakers prior to me had actually spoken about emotional intelligence as a future skill. Now, let me tell you, emotional intelligence as a skill was actually coined first in 1990. Right? John Mayer and Mark Peter Salve. These were the 2 researchers who actually coined this term of emotional intelligence. Right? Have you heard of IQ? Right? How many of you have measured your IQ? Just show of hands. Don't want to know what is your IQ. Just show of hands. How many of you have measured? At least I know one who has 160 plus here, so rest, sorry, I'm taking, no, we are classmates, so that way. Okay, IQ, heard of the word, right? Intelligent quotient, right? Similarly, there is a word called emotional quotient, which has been talked about. And then obviously emotional intelligence. Anything that happens in the world is linked to intelligence. Similarly, emotional intelligence as well. So what do we understand by this particular word? What is emotional intelligence to you? Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Any other point of view on emotional intelligence? Anyone wants to give a shot? Could it be empathy? Is that a question or an answer? Question. Okay. Okay. So I'll respond to it as we move forward. What else? What is emotion? आँख से पानी है ना, बहुत शाहरुख खान की मूवी देखी है भाई. हाँ जी, go ahead and be louder. I think sorry, just use the mic once again. Give him the mic. No? Mic has an EI problem, right?
Sorry, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, in my opinion, if I have multiple problems, then that time I need to show emotional balancing myself, because if I have problems, then that time I think so that it's a very big problem. Then how should I solve those problems? And if I am not able to solve those problems, then definitely I become disturbed, or anyone can disturb that it's a very big problem for me or for anyone. Then that time I should properly think that if I do not solve this problem, then what will be the result? that time I should think properly with my emotions as well as with the real situation. I should analyze myself that if I do not get proper result, then that time I should have properly balance myself, that I should take this step if I do not do this. That's why, in my opinion, uh, if I have any problem, then that time I should properly analyze myself and I should properly balance emotionally that I can do this. If I cannot do this, then I will have any plan B. That's my thing.
Okay, thank you. Right, take your seat. So fundamentally, one thing, can you hear emotional intelligence? जैसे बोल रहे हैं हर कोई problem की बात कर रहा है. Everyone is talking about problem. Emotional intelligence is not a problem, right? It's not linked to problem. Emotional intelligence basically is awareness of your emotions with respect to a social context. Now, what is that social context? When I'm speaking to you, this is the social context. When I'm in my office, in my chair, the social context is my office. When I'm at home, the social context is my home, my relatives, my family members. For you, the fellow students, for you, where you are. One way to take care, or it is awareness of your own emotions. One way to demystify it is to create compartments, which is be in here and now, where you are today. You are in here, please be here. The brain is a beautiful thing. It starts wandering. The attention span when we were kids was 45 seconds. What is the attention span now? 5 seconds. Length of the reel that you see. Okay. It's 7 seconds. It's not the length of the reel, it's the first 7 seconds of the reel. Right. So it is 7 seconds. Within 7 seconds, you are out somewhere else. So how will you be aware of your own emotions at this juncture? How many of you are really aware of what your emotion is right now? 1, 2. Want to make an effort to know your emotions right now? Okay. So let me give you emotions are in binary: happy, unhappy, angry, not angry. Yes, no. That's how it works largely. So do one thing. I'll give you 10 seconds. Talk to your neighbor and tell, are you happy? Why? Are you unhappy? Why? Right? Think of the last 4 hours and do it. Just talk to your neighbor. Go ahead. Including the first row. Happy, unhappy, why? Done? Okay. How many of you really found it difficult to assign a reason or identify whether you are happy or unhappy? How many? Others you were able to identify? Right? Okay. Right. There is a research which is conducted to check how many people are really emotionally aware. 95% of the people actually claim that they are emotionally aware. Fact is, only 10% know what their emotions are. That is the difference between emotional intelligence from a research and this perspective. Aware of a gentleman called Daniel Goleman? Some of you would be who have done it. He has done a lot of work and his research is quite famous. There are books which are published where he talks about the physiological impact of individuals, the brain, amygdala, and so on impact. I'm not going to go in that direction because today we are talking about emotional intelligence and its impact on leaders. Now, if you get into a classroom where the teacher is known to be very strict, your reactions, how do you react? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Anything from this side? If the teacher is fairly strict, think of schools also. Don't have to comment for your BA school. I know you will be running a bit of risk that way. अरे we always had strict teachers यार. कौन सा नया बात है इसमें? Yeah. To be attentive, right? So there is a response to the emotions that are displayed by the teacher. Now, in terms of leadership, folks, before I move forward, what happens if you have emotional intelligence? Basically, you are aware of self and others. What happens if you're not aware of, there is a lack of emotional intelligence, especially at leadership level? One, you're not aware how you are behaving. You're not even aware how people are receiving you. You are not able to understand emotions of the person you are talking to. Your empathy levels are low. These are 3-4 things that happens, when we talk of emotional intelligence. Now, before I gave you an exercise, I should do it for myself also, right? Happy, unhappy. Let me tell you, I'm very happy to be here. One, it's always good to talk to students. It's always good to, be able to share your knowledge. Because I remember one of our teachers, this was way back in school, who used to tell us that when you are sharing knowledge, there are two people who are getting educated. One who is receiving it, second who is giving it, because of the questions they receive it. Second, obviously, award. Who doesn't like that, right? Third, most importantly, and take your permission to say this, Rajesh also mentioned it. Rajesh and I, we were in the same institute, in the same batch of engineering for 4 years in MSIT Bhopal. I'm meeting him after 22 years. So that's, thank you for the opportunity. I was very zapped to see him and very happy. And we had Teachers Day a few days back. So wish all the teachers here a very happy Teachers Day. Today, I remember our head of the department of that time, Professor Khurasia, unfortunately passed away, 7-8 days back. And I'm sure he would have been happy looking at both of us today. Rajesh was very close to him being a meritorious student. I was also close to him being a very notorious student on that. So this also tells you that life gives opportunity to everyone, right? Everyone grows in their career. So back to emotional intelligence, folks, it's all about being aware of self, your own emotions, and aware of others. How can you do it? There are 4 ways, 4 broad components of this, and we'll talk it through with examples as you move forward. It's not necessary for you to build emotional intelligence only when you are at a leadership level in an organization. You can do it now. Most of the preachers that you see today, any preacher, talk of any preacher, I don't want to get into the names. Those who preach, they have very high level of emotional intelligence, right? How many of you have seen a mentalist performing? Not the sitcom, by the way. Mentalist. Heard of the word mentalist? Mentalist is someone who can tell your mind. They are basically the highest level of emotional intelligence because they are listening. When you listen, it is not only the words, it is the emotions. You need to learn the capability or develop the capability to learn to the emotions. Even a change in volume, even in the change of way a person is speaking, you should be able to pick it up, right? Are you not able to pick it up with your parents or anyone who is your close friend? Right? Many times it does happen. So let's talk about the 4 key components. The first component is all about it's all about self-awareness. It's basically around understanding your own emotions. What am I feeling in a given context? What is my feeling today? What is happening to my emotion? How are people responding? Now, how can you judge these elements? One, you can judge it by how you are receiving the feedback or response. If you are not getting response from people, understand there is a problem. Identify what are the issues and identify what are the emotions that we are talking about. In organization, there is a famous OD intervention that is done, which is called 360-degree feedback, which is more about how my peers are observing me, how my manager or senior up, higher up, and how my team members are observing me. Any leadership development program that you try to do, leadership development program, by the way, is not HR program, right? It is a leadership development, you develop it for the organization, is always focused on this. And the first step is always about 360, which means everyone who wants to grow in their life should have the capability to take feedback. Right? There are a lot of barbs which are thrown at you. And this is something one can learn from the politicians also. Look at the amount of nonsense which is written about them or spoken about. Do they allow it to affect them themselves? That's important. So 360-degree feedback is one of the tools to develop self-awareness. That's the first part. Second is self-management. Second part of emotional intelligence for leadership. What is self-management? Self-management is all about how you react to a situation, how thick your skin is. Good, bad, ugly, it has to be thick. You cannot allow people to get under your skin at any point of time. Just think of it. So many people are listening to me. Someone asks a random question and I become aggressive with the person. What impression will you carry of me? The impression would be, yes, sir. Absolutely. So people will speak. It's not about what you can stop people from speaking about you. No, the intent is very important. It's all about managing your impression, right? So self-management is all about, do know yourself that you get angry. What are your triggers? What are your stressors? किस बात पे आपको stress आता है? किस बात पे आपको trigger आता है? And at that point of time, just don't react. So the question about self-management is react versus response. Let me give you a story. I was, it's around 5-6 years back, in one of the organization, I was not very happy with my manager for something because I had taken a decision. I had pretty much implemented it, but my manager was pushing me to overturn it. I was very, very frustrated with it. And it's not about pushing me to overturn the decision, but also about talking it out in front of the clientels as in the business leaders. So I felt very upset about it, that as I've already convinced, everyone is ready about it. Why are you trying to overturn a decision which I've taken? What would it mean? I was obviously a business HR leader for a large setup at that time. I wrote a very strong email because I could not express my anger. I wrote a strong email, and then I discussed with one of my peer that, very frustrated, I'm planning to shoot this mail. He told me one thing, right? Just wait until tomorrow morning. Let the night pass. Tomorrow morning, even if you, go through the mail once again, if you want to send an email, shoot it. I thought, what is he trying to say? But let me do it at that point of time. Next morning, when I read the mail, I found the mail to be very caustic, extremely caustic. I felt, do I really need to write these many things? I altered the entire email. After a point of time, I realized that I need not write the mail also. It is not even required. Why? Because my emotions had already gone by then, the negative emotions which I had developed. So folks, there are two methods, write it or just take a walk. Sigmund Freud has actually talked about it in his ego defense mechanism. He calls it sublimation, which is more about feeling angry, just take a walk. And even after that, you feel that you are still angry, have an outburst, give it to the person. It's not that I have not got angry or I have not given it to people in meetings. There have been board meetings I have taken on the CEO also on many occasions, right? But fundamentally, one needs to be aware, you need to do it respectfully. The job of any leader is not about the senior walks in, stand and say, oh, laddu sir, peda sir, samosa sir, bada pav, Bombay mein. No, it's not that. It's about being the partner. It's about raising it appropriately, right? Because that's where you will build credibility, capability. So That's one way of managing, knowing self. But first is, what are your triggers and stressors, right? To the younger generation, a lot of you have, and it's not about a blame. Most of us, are function of our failures. We have failed multiple times to be where we are. I see with the younger generation, susceptibility to failure is very high, which is you are not allowed to fail. When we used to come home after giving exams, our father or parents used to ask, 35 aa jayega na? Might have been different in some homes. 35 was the passing marks. In some of my mark sheets, my father could not differentiate what is the minimum marks, what is the passing marks, and what is my marks, because all were the same at that point of time. Today, if someone scores below 75, you have it, or below 80, you have it, right? So the capacity to fail and then stand after that is also very, very important, and that is how you will manage yourself. So identify what are your stressors. Many times in life, those of you who are in 35 to 45, there is something called midlife crisis, and everyone goes through it. Midlife crisis is all about where you start questioning about everything that you have done in your life, which is the choice of subject, the choice of graduation, choice of post-graduation, choice of friends, even choice of spouse. You do, and you are lost. Many people don't realize it. You feel frustrated, and what happens? You try to do a lot of things at that time. Please realize it's a psychological situation where you need help. Either go to someone who is a great friend, talk to a friend. Having friends is important, or talk to a counselor who can listen to you. It's okay. When I was going through it some 4 years back, I actually went to a counselor and took 8 sessions. The counselor didn't do anything. The counselor just kept on listening and kept on asking me questions. Helped me to get out of it. And I had people who were just telling me, oh, you have an enviable CV, etc., etc. I said, that is okay, but still I'm not feeling good about myself. I could have done something different. And it is very natural. It will happen to you. So accept it as it is. That's self-management. The third part is all about social, right? That we talk about. It's about social awareness. The third part. Social awareness is who is the audience, who is listening to me today, right? If you see the previous example I gave, one student, one teachers, because that's and the bodies, because that's the social audience to whom I am interacting with. It's important. As a leader in an organization, you will interact with whom? You will interact with the promoters, you will interact with the shareholders, you will interact with the government quasi-judicial bodies, you will interact with your employees, you will interact with your peers. Every meeting you have to be a different person, right? And I quote today, there has been a lot of reliance which has been spoken, but I spent 7 years in that company, so we'll have examples. This is a meeting we were having with the chairman, Mukesh Bhai, right? And at that point of time, so we were all accelerated leadership program participants, 2011. He was sitting in front and we were told, ask any question to him. So we had our questions. After 15 minutes, he stepped out. We got to know that he has got a call from the PM's office, Prime Minister's office. He came back, responded to another couple of questions. Then he said, oh, Bob Dudley is here. Bob Dudley was, by the way, BP's CEO, global CEO at that point of time. He is here. So he went out, came back. After that, got a call from home, went and attended it, came back. By the time my turn came, I said, sir, you are managing our questions in between. These are so many meetings taking place. How are you managing yourself? How do you do? So his response to me was, Sumit, what I look at is one thing at a time. I have compartments in my head, which means this meeting is a compartment, the next meeting is a compartment, the other meeting is a compartment. It's pretty much like rooms in my home. I go from one room to another. I leave all the elements related to this, this meeting in this room itself. I said, how will you develop it? How does you develop? He said, it's a practice for 30 years. Start practicing it from now. You cannot develop it today, but compartmentalization is very important to develop social awareness. Today I'm here. As soon as I go out, I will get on a call, to talk to my CEO on some important matter. I cannot give him emotional intelligence. He's not interested. He's interested in knowing something else. So that's what it is. So these are very important learnings which I have picked up. Suggestion, read good books, especially few biographies, which have been very important. One of the important leadership biography which I got an opportunity to read long back, just after my engineering, was that of Jack Welch. Heard of Jack Welch? Jack Welch was the famous CEO of GE, right? He made GE what it was. Very quickly, he talked about his manager. Jack Welch's manager, who was the erstwhile CEO, was a very famous man in GE. His birthday used to be celebrated across 2,000 locations of GE. Used to be, cakes, cards, flowers, everything under the sun. The year Jack Welch's manager retired, he was fishing in Arizona in US. He got just one card. The card was sent by Jack Welch. Folks, we do not realize that people respect the chair and the title. A lot of us get associated with that very easily. Oh, it's me. It's not you. It's the position. It's not someone else. It's the individual, but the position, who was there. So that's another self-awareness which comes in. Last element, last component is all about relationship management. Relationship management is your ability to mentor, influence yourself, your peers, your stakeholders. How adept are you in relationship management? And most importantly, managing conflicts. When was the last, and this is our homework, just write it down whenever you have time. Think of one conflict that you were able to manage really well, and think of one conflict that you could not manage at all. What were some of the challenges were there? Right? That's what. I don't want an answer right now. It's for you. Ability to manage every conflict is that. And there are two very simple methods. The Britishers say everything can be solved over a cup of coffee. And the other one, the Prime Minister has said, chai pe charcha. Right? Meet someone over a cup of chai. Understand, India, at least the India, Middle East as a context is very social, which means people prefer to meet socially. It's okay to go out for lunch, dinner, have a cup of coffee, or have a cup of chai and have a discussion. All the problems can be solved in such situations. I've been able to solve quite a few conflicts that way. It's always about leave your ego on your chair, take the person with you. Self-awareness, social awareness, self-management, relationship management. All four of them taken together is emotional intelligence. How good you become over a period of time will define your leadership, folks. Thank you. Are we done? Is it a no question session? Emotional intelligence part 2. Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you. Any? Yeah, go ahead. Take the mic so that others can listen to it. 1 or 2 questions. Let me know.
Hello. Good afternoon, sir. My name is Anisha. First of all, thank you so much for your valuable insights. My question is that since we are just about to enter in our corporate journey, how one's emotional intelligence can affect team dynamics or leadership, or how one's emotional intelligence can affect team dynamics in an organization?
Right. So what happens, organization always try to drive, and good question, organization tries to drive collaboration, but that how is never defined, and B schools typically teaches us competitiveness. What you are trying to achieve, the other person is also trying to achieve, so you tend not to share those information, right? You are fighting for the same job, fighting for the same competition, and so on. So that's the classic dilemma you will face. Best is when you get into a team, define a team objective. What are we going to achieve? And second, ways of working in a team. It is called a contracting part. Now, what are contracting? 3 things. 1, administrative, how often the team will meet. Professional, why the team will meet. Third is psychological, that anything related to what the team is doing will be discussed in the meeting only. most of the time the challenges comes in an organization कि जो बात दो लोगों के बीच में होनी चाहिए वो दूसरा आदमी तीसरे से कर रहा है, पहला किसी और से कर रहा है, and that's where a lot of gossip starts. Best is these are the this is my team objective, this is the team contracting, this is the role of every individual, and we'll hold each other accountable in this. Even if it is small work, you'll see things will start falling together very quickly. We do it as a leadership team. We bind ourselves.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Okay. Done? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for helping us understand the value emotional intelligence holds. This will definitely help us when we step in corporate leadership roles in the future. It was indeed an insightful session imbibed with so much valuable information.
So let's move on to the next session for the day.
The speaker for the day is Director, Business Analytics, Philips India Limited. He has 19 plus years of experience spanning across healthcare, IT services, petrochemicals, high-tech, business consulting, supply chain and automotive industries. He has worked previously in organizations like SCG Chemicals, DXC Technologies, HP, I2 Technologies, EY and Volvo Eicher.
Sir has won the AI Analytics Industry Leaders Award conducted by 3AI Bangalore. His work on developing a stock out prediction tool won the first prize in innovation tournament at Wharton Business School, USA. Sir has published several research papers and his work has got showcased in forums like NASSCOM, IIMB, IMA and IEEM conferences. Sir holds a degree in mechanical engineering from NIT Bhopal and a master's and a PhD from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore.
Sir will be speaking about leading through change and uncertainty. So please join us in welcoming Dr. Rajesh Kumar, Director, Business Analytics, Philips India Limited.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. I think I'm between you and your lunch. Almost. So let me start with a story first. And I'm reminded of my student days. And I had gone for an interview at IIT Kanpur. This was for their MBA program. And I was seeing students going in and coming out with sweat on their forehead. And I was thinking, what is happening? So I asked a few of them, what is happening inside? And they said, hey, there is a maths professor inside. And in the MBA interview, he's asking all kinds of questions around curves, sine theta, cos theta, vectors, and so on and so forth. And so I thought, whatever happens, I'm not going to let the interview run in the direction of maths. So I went inside, and this prof, he said, okay, Rajesh, maths would have been one of your favorite topics in college. And I immediately said, no, sir, maths was not one of my favorite topics. My favorite topic was internal combustion engines and engineering materials. There was a silence for some time, and then he asked a few basic questions on that subject, which was, of course, my strength, and I was able to crack that interview. But the reason I'm telling you this story is, one, of course, try to mold the interviews in the direction of your areas of strength, and you will be able to do much better in general in life. And the second reason I'm telling this story is that when I got the list of topics from Madhuri Madam on which I had to speak, I saw, hey, these are all HR topics. Not one of my favorite subjects, probably suited for my friend here, Sumit, who is from the HR area. But anyhow, I've tried to collate some stuff around change management and uncertainty and how we use that. My area is more business analytics and digital transformation. So we do use change management in our projects, but let's see how this goes. So just when the caterpillar thought the world was over, it became a butterfly.
and it had opportunities to now go and look at nectar across all of the flowers around, around where it stays. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, my name is Rajesh Kumar. I'm going to talk about the topic leading through change and uncertainty. We'll look at what is change, why does it cause uncertainty, what is the impact of this change, leading and managing change, and then we'll summarize some of the steps around change management. Let's understand, first of all, what is change? So what is change? Yeah. Okay. So we hear this a lot, right? This company needs to change. We need to adopt change and so on and so forth. So what is really change? This is change. Well, this is not change that we are talking about. So I will ask all of you to actually go to menti.com and type in the code 85008057. Can you all do that quickly on your smartphones? And type in the first words that come to your mind when you think about change. Can you go to that? No responses yet. Is it taking time? Okay. Some responses, some initial responses. Love. The only constant thing. Ambiguity leads to success. It needs a lot of hard work. It leads to growth. Interesting. Okay, let's get back to the presentation. So incidentally, we also did this exercise in our company, and these are some of the responses we got. Change is hard. It's difficult. It leads to challenges. And so therefore, what should we do about when we are faced with change? So again, just to summarize, what is change? Change can be a new phase in life. All of you will now go out from college into jobs, you'll get married, you'll go through a lot of changes. So it could be a new phase in life. It could be also changes in the organization, right? So you're launching a new product, you're going through a restructuring. Basically, you're moving from an old stage to a new stage, and you go through a transition. Typically, it is not the change itself which is fearful, but the change brings fear in 4 areas. In the areas of security, relationships, status, and control. So it's an emotionally driven process. If you look at the change curve, it's an emotional roller coaster ride, right? We are all, if on the y-axis we have the emotional response, on the x-axis we have time. And typically, before change, we are all in a stable state, right? And then there is shock and denial. So let's take example of what happened after COVID. Not during COVID, I think all of us know, but after COVID, a lot of companies have now started asking employees to come back to office, right? And that is a big change that happened post-COVID. So people had some of the people had assumed that the way we had moved into work from home and virtual environment will probably continue forever. So now they were in a state of shock and denial. Hey, I need to again think of daycare for my children. You know, they were comfortable, maids are coming at any time in the day at home. They're able to take care of a lot of stuff. And now companies have again started asking them to come back to office. So they are in a state of shock and denial. How do they leave the past? Then once they realize that this is going to stay, that they get into anger and blame. They also, in fact, some of my team, we also started bargaining with the leadership saying, hey, the people that I work with are global. They are spread across the world. I need to take calls from home. Do I really need to come to office? Can we change from 5 days to 3 days? Can the rest of the 2 days be hybrid? So all of that kind of bargaining took place, and we let the employees also be in the hybrid mode. So come to the office some days and maybe work from home for a couple of days. But basically what I'm trying to tell you is that people do get into all this anger, blame, and so on and so forth. And then when they see that some of the employees are going to office, hey, they're liking it. What about all the gossip we used to have in the office? What about all the good time we used to spend collaborating with each other? That this exploration then starts for some of them, and the acceptance also starts kicking in. That's the new start. That's where we want everyone to be during the change curve. So what is the impact of change on organizations? Typically, if you look at change, on the y-axis here we have volume of how many people does this change impact. Businesses, markets, functions. And on the x-axis we have significance. How many IT systems does it affect? And so on and so forth. So there can be incremental change and there can be transformational change. Incremental change, I'm just launching a new product probably. Transformational change, something like what happened during COVID. Suddenly everyone was asked to work in a virtual mode. Even organizations, banks. I remember, my colleagues, they were not allowed to take even their mobile phones inside the office. And now these banks themselves were asking employees to work from home using their own laptops. So that's the kind of a transformational change. It leads to deeper and broader impact in the organization. So then coming to the more important part, which is how do you manage this change and uncertainty? Again, go back to this menti.com and let's see what comes to your mind when you think about the role of a leader during change. What is the role of a leader during change? Taking a lot of time, just 4 responses. Success. Role of a leader brings success probably. Helps in executions. Patience. Yeah, that's an important one. Guidance. Support. Embrace ambiguity. Passionate. Communication. Yeah, that's an interesting one as well. Support. Okay, so I think we've seen enough. Let's go back to the presentation. So when we did this exercise, in our company, these are some of the responses we got. The leader has to be calm, has to communicate, has to bring clarity, has to be transparent, has to inspire, to be able to lead during change. So if you look at how should we really go about managing change, and we are talking of large transformational changes, typically there are three elements to change management. One is we need to engage the people. It is not the organization that is going through change. It is actually the people who are going through change. We need to engage them. The very important part is we have to talk about the why before the what first. Why are we changing? What is the change story? What are the objectives of this change? And we have to find the sponsors, key sponsors who can help us with this change management. Then we have to help people move through this transition from old to new. Communication is a very important part during transition. And we will talk about this in some of the examples. Fostering growth mindset. Skills can be taught, but growth mindset is something that helps you in the change process. And then once you move from the old to new, how do you really sustain this change? The quick wins, celebrating the quick wins in office helps it. And aligning adopters. We'll talk about what do you mean by aligning adopters. The early movers who can help you manage change in the organization. And one of the favorite quotes from one of my managers, focus on progress, not perfection. Are we progressing or not? Right? We cannot look at perfection. And of course, you cannot do it alone. You have to go through the change process as a team. So let's take an example. I think we have a colleague here from HP as well. I was with HP for almost 10 years. And HP way back in 2015 went through a huge change. It went through a split. And when Meg Whitman became chairman, she had this history that the revenues were declining consistently year over year from $130 billion at one point in time to about $112 billion. So could she initiate the split or the change immediately? No. She had to first stabilize the revenue. So the right time for bringing in that change. And then also we talked about the why before the what. So communicating to the people, why are we changing? The reason that, hey, the sum of the parts is greater than the whole, which should not be the case. There is one part of the business which wants to go into the new style of IT, focus on cloud computing, focus on analytics. There is another part of business which is in the retail side of business. It is manufacturing PCs, it is manufacturing printers. And so they have grown apart. They cannot be together. They have to be split. The other element that was very important during this change management was communication and stakeholder management with the employees and shareholders. Why? It led to job cuts of almost 50,000 on a scale of about 300,000 people. It was huge. So how do you help people through this change? We had to find adopters, and we will talk about adopters. We had to help people because a lot of our leaders here talked about empathy, and we'll also look at the empathy angle in communication. We help people move to other parts of the organization. And personally, I went from doing captive analytics to commercial analytics for HP. And then of course, we had to remove barriers to success to sustain the change. What does that mean? HP was a huge organization, $130 billion. It had one IT system, one finance system, one HR system. Now suddenly you are splitting the organization. It cannot be done overnight. So how do you prepare for that? And managing this complexity so that you can flip the switch when it really matters. So we talked about communication in the last slide. Communicating and listening to our people using empathy is very, very important. because transparency engineers confidence. If you are not open with your team, they will start imagining the worst thing. Okay? And it is said, if you want to travel fast, go alone. But if you want to travel far, go together. So let's look at a video to really see what does empathy mean.
So what is empathy, and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth. Staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do. Recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed. And then we look and we say, hey, climb down. I know what it's like down here, and you're not alone. Sympathy is, ooh, it's bad, no, you want a sandwich? Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with at least. And we do it all the time. Because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So, I had a miscarriage. Oh, at least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, I don't even know what to say right now, I'm just so glad you told me. Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.
So the important thing here is that you may not be able to find solution for someone, but are you able to make the connection? People want to be able to be seen, to be heard. They want to understand that somebody is actually looking at their emotions. They are being connected to. So you may not be able to provide a solution, but are you being able to connect to your people? And that brings us to the next topic, which is using communication. How can I drive adoption? There is a model called a diffusion model, typically used in innovation cycle. And what it tells us is, you have to get excited the first 15, 20, 30% of the people. And then the others will automatically start adopting it, the laggards, because the herd mentality follows. So I'll give you an example. Today, in our company, we are trying to change our office from a location in Hebbal or in Bangalore to one which is on the new airport road. It would mean a significant change in the commute time for a lot of people. And this is a big change we are trying to bring about. So how are we doing that, right? Again, we went through surveys, we heard the people. The company is trying to subsidize transportation for a lot of people, almost to the extent of 60-70%. They are helping them find houses nearby, schools nearby. And then also to help them prepare mentally, in the office, we have a huge clock. which shows how many days are left to move to the new organization. So every day you enter into the office, you see this clock ticking saying 29 days to go, 28 days to go. So it's helping you prepare mentally for that big change. I'll give an example of what do we mean by growth mindset. And I was working with this company, they were my clients. Typically, vendors travel to client locations to do projects. Here, it was the reverse. The client actually traveled to our location because they wanted to learn digital ways of working. They wanted to adapt it. They wanted to imbibe it as a part of their team and culture. So they came over, they stayed with us for a year, and then along with them, some of us went there and started imbibing it in the entire organization. So this is an example of how you use growth mindset. And then I'm also being told that we have lesser time, so I'll probably go through this example quickly. This is again an example of change we are going through currently. As Philips, we are going through a huge restructuring at the moment, which will cause almost 5,000 to 10,000 job losses. But again, the three key elements here are the why before the what, the communication with the people. Why are we going through this change? Revenues were declining for multiple quarters. There was a recall which wiped off 50% of value in a particular medical devices segment. So there are two key asks. How can we start refocusing on the customer? We were a very functionally driven organization, a single large manufacturing organization for entire Philips, a single large procurement organization for the entire Philips. Now we are making it all business oriented. Each business is responsible end to end so that they can start focusing on the customer. They can start refocusing on their quality. Otherwise, it was the functional, it is the quality department's headache, not mine as a business. And then transition management. We are also taking help of a consultant, a large consulting company, to bring in an outside in view. And they are helping monitor this change process. And also, how are we planning to sustain this change? We are simplifying process. We have made the organization much more flatter. And then again, focusing on progress, not perfection. So to summarize, if we have to go through a successful adoption of new ways of working during change management, what we really have to do is not just go through this whole project plan process and then we are done, we'll go from vision and strategy to happy customers. What it means is that we have to actually imbibe the behaviors in the people. Sometimes technology doesn't work. So adoption is the key goal during change management. How can we inculcate new behaviors and ways of working in the people? And then finally, my last slide, what are the takeaways from a change and uncertainty management? First, clarify your objectives. Be open and honest about what you know and what you don't know with your people. Second, we said communication with empathy. Regularly engage and connect with your people. Third, managing stakeholders. Who are the key stakeholders? Employees, shareholders, maybe partners, and so on and so forth. Finally, or second last, is worry about what you can control. Do not worry about things which you cannot control. So focus on your circle of influence. And lastly, be a role model so that you can help lead the change and promote a growth mindset. So that's all I had to say on change management and uncertainty management. Thank you. Any questions? So empathy is really important, we saw, right? Because in organizations, for example, when a restructuring happens, a lot of people lose their jobs. How can we help them? As a large organization, can we help them find roles within the organization in other parts? Can we help them through external recruiters and so on and so forth? And also, for example, what we are doing now when we are changing the office, right? We are empathizing with our employees and seeing how can we help them make the move from the old office to the new office, right? By subsidizing transportation and so on and so forth. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Bringing about change in an organization is no easy feat. Thank you, sir, for making us understand the importance of why before what, inculcating a growth mindset, establishing good communication for smooth change, and sustaining the said changes as leaders. Indeed, we should focus on the progress before perfection. Thank you for your valuable words. Moving on to the next session for the day.
The speaker for this session has 22 years in experience in advanced analytics, data science, consulting, and global delivery. Sir was the global head of advanced analytics at Larsen Toubro in Chennai. Prior to L&T, Sir co-founded Predictive Research, a consultancy specializing in artificial intelligence and advanced analytics across multiple industry verticals, and held various analytics leadership roles at IBM and Genpact. Sir started his career with Air Force and was also named as one of the top 100 analytics leader in the Asia Pacific by Analytics India magazine.
Sir has earned his executive MBA from the Indian Institute of Management, Lucknow. He actively dedicates himself to mentoring and guiding young individuals as a motivational speaker. Please join us in welcoming Mr. Srinath Jangam, Director, Head Analytics, Citibank.
Good afternoon, everybody. Okay. I know it's been a long day. You heard two valuable insights that is coming from our eminent speakers who have got a length of experience in the corporate, right? And the reason of having this entire conversation or probably having this leadership talk is that what is that you take back? What is that you take back as a student? What is that you take back and how do you implement what you've learned? And how much of that you can really implement, right? How many of you are feeling hungry? Wrong question to be asked at 1 o'clock, right? I mean, somebody had raised both their hands. So I know how many of you would be listening to what I'm trying to say as well, right? Okay, never mind. So for the people who've raised both their hands, I'll try to keep it short and try to keep it more interactive, right? And see in terms of, even the topic is also a very, very heavy topic, right? Purpose. It's a purpose in terms of what, as a leader, what is the purpose and how you can drive and what examples that you can take and what are the things you can implement while you're probably stepping into different roles, right? So I come from a beautiful piece of land. I come from a beautiful, precious piece of land called as Hatti Gold Mines. I lived my entire life on gold, which means, as all of you have played cricket or something, you know, games and all of that stuff, right? So I lived that over a gold mine because my father used to work in a gold mine. So he used to go 2,500 feet deep inside and then go, you know, 4 kilometers, 5 kilometers inside the earth. And his objective is to find gold. His objective was to find gold, which means to say, just imagine for a second, if you close your eyes and you put your handkerchief, how pitch dark is it going to be? It's going to be completely dark? Absolutely completely dark. So for a living, my father used to do this for 35 years of his life. And when he used to find gold, he used to drill hole, put the detonators and blast it, right? And how many of you have felt earthquakes, tremors, something like that? So we, as growing up in a gold mine, it used to be fun for us. So when there used to be a blast, oh, so the window is shaking today. Oh, the door is shaking today. So adventurous. So my father did this for 35 years of life, and that seed was planted at a very early stage while I was growing up. And at the age of probably studying in 5th standard, when we used to go into the gold mine, it used to be really adventurous. When I say adventurous, you used to have a cage, and the cage used to be with an, bucket, right? Just extend that bucket, make it rectangle in shape, and have holes into that. Imagine that situation. And then you're going down 2,500 feet deep. So there are different levels. So there's a ring bell. The person rings the bell and say, okay, this is 100 feet, this is 500 feet. You stop and then you walk inside. It used to be really, as a kid, looking at those amazing, my father used to do is taking me inside and saying, okay, how it used to be. And it used to be very dangerous. The reason I'm saying this is, at an early stage, a seed was planted in terms of saying, okay, what you can do in life. So adventure was something which was very, very close to me. And then what I did, fast forward, after studying my engineering, I thought life has got so much to offer. So usually after engineering and you finish your graduation, you look for a job or something like that, right? Little that I know that, okay, I had something in my mind, okay, this is something different that I want to do. I want to do something different. So I joined the Indian Air Force. My first job was to seek an aircraft which is traveling at the velocity of sound and to fire a missile. So which means I was trained in aeronautical engineering, trained to be a rocket science engineer so that you can fire the missile at the right direction. And I didn't know anything about rocket science, but I cleared the exam and the SSB interview, so on and so forth, right? Anybody from the defense background, parents, friends, relatives working? Okay, 1, 2. Okay, fine. 3, 4, 6. Okay, there are 5, 6 people who probably come from the defense background, or somebody relative or somebody working there. So the first job was to fire a missile. And how many of you know that our country was attacked in Parliament? Right? All of us know that. Yeah, all of us know that, right? So during that time, I was a 23-year-old fresh graduate from the college, joined the armed services. I had 200 people reporting into me. I was leading a squadron. There was a task that was given to me. What was the task? That I have to protect a strategic location. What is a strategic location? Is that I am close to the border, and this place, I have equipments, ammunitions, aircrafts, and all of that stuff. So how do I keep that strategic location safe? So my job was to ensure I keep that safe through a missile, which means if somebody's coming into my territory, I go and fire that. So what do I need to do at the age of 23? At the age of 23, I didn't have any experience. I don't know how to maintain 200 people. And the job was, what do you expect from your dream job? You expect many things, right? Money there. Okay. So usually, things that come into mind, and when I see my freshers joining into Citibank and to the larger organizations, you see a red carpet, you see flowers, a red carpet event and all of that stuff, etc., etc. The point I'm trying to drive, at the age of 20 and 23, I had a team of 200 people to take them to a war kind of a scenario. What is that I need to do? We have decided a location. We've decided location in terms of, okay, if this is my strategic location, I have to be around that so that I can protect it. Now, if that position is going to be in a marshy land, it's going to be in a farmland, or it could be in a desert, or it could be anything. So what my task was, right? If you've seen in the movies the radar equipment, there's a radar equipment, there is a control system, and then there is a launcher, right? So what the radar system does, it sends electromagnetic radiations into the air, find out the aircraft, seek the information. And how many of us have played video games? All of us have played video games in some part of our life, right? You see that console? Some console and everything there. So you have a blip, okay, a blip indicating that I'm sending a radiation, I'm able to find out the aircraft. So it's coming in velocity of sound, it's 200 kilometers, it's 150 kilometers, 125 kilometers, 100 kilometers, and 50 kilometers, and closer to the target. So my job, you have a radar and you have an equipment. Think about a railway the cabinet. You cut it into, let's say, 110 feet. So that used to be the cabin where you used to have a control system, send the radars and find out the signal. So if you find out that this is an aircraft which is an enemy aircraft, boom, you press the missile. And the missile goes in the velocity of sound and it goes and destroys. So that's the job and nature of the job. So you have equipments for it. You have launchers for it. You have missile for it. You have the entire equipment has to be moved, right? And at the age of 23 and 24, you have 200 people. You have to move your equipment, take it to a destination where it has been earmarked, and then start camping, which means to say you have to first level the ground and say, okay, this is the place where I'm going to keep my radar. This is the place where I'm going to keep my control system. And this is the place where I'm going to keep my launchers, right? To set it up, I'm going to take time. These are huge, rugged systems. I have to move my men and I have to motivate them, right? Talking about purpose, we'll talk about purpose at the end. So I have to move them. So what happens, right? You have to go there, set up everything from the scratch, which means you have to take care about their food. You have to cook. Nobody comes and cooks and gives it to you on the table. You have to cook. And then there is no AC, right? You have to have a tent so that you can sleep. And then you have to ensure that you are protecting your men, you're protecting your equipment. So which means you have security systems. You have to assign tasks for each individual in terms of, okay, while you sleep, we guard. While you guard, I'm going to sleep, right? In rotations. And then I have to keep them health. I have to keep them mentally, physically fit, mentally and physically fit, so that I am ready to fight a battle for the next couple of days till the time I get that information that, okay, boom, you can launch that missile at the age of 22 and 23, right? It's amazing lessons that you've learned, that I've learned in that period of time. So imagine setting up all of that and keeping them motivated, ensuring that we fight the battle and we win the battle. And if you have a system that is not working well, you need technicians to support, you need technicians to work overnight and ensure that it's running up at night, right? Because it's not that it's going to come at morning 10 o'clock, right? The flight is not going to come at 10 o'clock. If they have to attack, there'll be at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the night, all of that. So what does it mean to say is that we're talking about purpose of leadership, right? So how do you then manage a people of 200 who are technicians? You have to keep them physically, mentally fit to fight a battle. Fast forward, I did this for 6 years. I saw my father was adventurous, right? He used to do this to go 2,500 feet every day, never complained. Why? Because he had some purpose that he has to put the food on the table. We'll come back to that, right? So I saw that in terms of, oh, wow. And he never complained that, oh, I have to go back, I have to go down 2,500 feet, then come back alive. And for 35 years without complaining, he's doing it for over a period of time. Fast forward, I felt the grass was greener on the other side. So I finished my MBA from IIM Lucknow. I joined the corporate world. So fast forward, when I joined the corporate world, got my certification from GE, I fell in love with numbers, analytics, and everything else, right? I co-founded a company as well during that journey in terms of, okay, I was not very happy with what I was doing in the corporate world. I thought, okay, I can do better off in doing as an entrepreneur, right? And I failed miserably as an entrepreneur there because we didn't have the proper funding or probably planning and all of that stuff. That's fine. I got into a fantastic role in L&T. The objective was to set up the analytic firm. The objective was to ensure that how do we take the entire organization into the analytics? What change management that we can put in? How do we use analytics into supply chain? How do we use analytics in terms of scrap management? How do I use analytics to predict the steel prices or the cement prices and so on and so forth? So there the objective was different. The objective was clearly in terms of say, how can you hit 200 crores as a target using analytics? What can you do to ensure that you can use your data, you can use your change management, help the leaders to take a decision and then get 200 crores to the company. So the objective there was completely different. The objective there was clearly in terms of business driven, in terms of, okay, this is something clearly that we want to do. And from an entrepreneur perspective, the objective was completely in terms of how do I sustain my company? How do I take my company to the next level, right? So today, while we work with Citi, right, the objectives are completely different, right? How do I ensure the bank is safe? How do I ensure that there are no risk exposed? How do I ensure that I use analytics so that I can increase my products? How do I use analytics to get more customers into my platform, right? So the point I was trying to drive is over a period of this time, right? I've been a national level swimming champion. I represented my states in the nationals. The point I'm trying to drive is in everything that you did, you had some purpose, right? What was the purpose? Probably the objective while I was running in the Air Force was completely different. While I was in the corporate was completely different. So the point is, if I look back in the last 23 years, if I look back in the last 24 years, there were clear objectives in terms of there were clear dreams and their aspirations in terms of, okay, this is the things that we want to do. These are things that I wanted to do, right? What is it you're going to take back, from these discussion sessions in terms of what is that you can inculcate? What is it you can think bigger? How can you have a purpose, right? Another example is, so today we talk about independence, right? 75 years of independence. So if I go back to the independence, how did it start? What happened? What comes to your mind when we talk about independence? Struggle. What else? Sacrifice. What else? Freedom fighters came together. What else? Bloodshed. Okay. What else? New beginning, right? And you know from where exactly it starts from? It starts from that couple of men and women who came with that purpose, which is bigger and larger than themselves, right? Because they dreamt about, just imagine that we go back to 1890 or 1850, right? And you say freedom. You shout the word freedom. What's going to happen to you? You will not see the light of the next day, right? It was so difficult for them to think about freedom, which means to say it is somebody's purpose. He felt or she felt that we need to be independent, that we need to do something different, and we cannot be what we are, right? And today they don't see the benefit of what the freedom is. The point is, how can I then, that set of people had a purpose, the clear purpose in terms of saying, okay, I need to see my country has to be free. The point I'm trying to drive is, how can I then inculcate, take those things and saying, what do I need to do to think differently, right? What is the purpose that I'm going to drive? Is it, if I take that the last 25 years of my career being in the entrepreneur, being in the armed services, working in the corporate, there was different roles that I was playing. At that role, the purpose was completely different. But if I put the journey of the last 24 or 25 years, the purpose was completely different in terms of adding value, in terms of what can I do better and how can I think bigger, right? So today, I think most of us, a couple of people that I interacted are from the finance world, right? So what is that seed that you can plant? Somebody in 1850, 1840 had planted that seed in terms of we have to be independent, we have to be free. Because of that seed that has been planted, so today we sit free, we do what we want, and we're talking about being the number 3 in the global economic world, right? So if that has to happen, what is that as an young minds that you have, what purpose can you take back? The purpose when you have bigger than yourself, purpose that with my knowledge, with my experience, what seeds that I can plant that is much, much bigger, that is much, much bigger than our personal gains, will lead us to a larger. We all know it, right? Somebody showed 2 hands in terms of what's coming next, right? So I'll keep it short. I'll keep it very, very short. I think what took you here, right? What took you here is your 18 years of education or probably 17 years of education, and you have a clear target in terms of where do you want to go, right? And if you do not have a target, what you need to do today is to sit back and write down the things that you want. In the beginning of the session, right, Akash pointed a very beautiful sentence. He said, I want to be a CEO, right? Can all of you plant that seed today? Yes? Yes? If you become a CEO, who's going to be benefited? It's both. It's both, right? Yeah, so it is a beneficial that you at least know, like today you're in 2023, okay? 2023. 5 years from now, you're here in 2028. You didn't put a goal, you didn't have any direction. Then what will happen? You didn't have a purpose, right? What will happen? How many of you traveled in the Mumbai train? All of us, right? So when the station comes, what do? Stand at the gate, right? And then you've been pushed inside, right? And when your station comes, what happens? You don't have to do anything. You have to come back to the door. It will push you down to that, right? So when you come back to 2028 and we look at 2023, oh, I didn't plan. Oh, I missed it. So right now you're in 2023, right? As you finish this session, take a book, take a paper, take a pen, write down the things that you really want in life, right? Write down the things in terms of, okay, I probably have to work in this company. I'm going to have a fintech. I probably want to start something. I'm going to do something. Think big, right? I would suggest you to read that book from Dr. Abdul Kalam, Enlightened Minds. Yes, he was the president. But I would suggest everybody to read that book, which allows you to think really big. If it was not those few people who could think big about saying freedom, we would not be benefited. I'll come to you, right? If it was not for electricity, the person who invented electricity was not for his own use. And today electricity has become a common, and it is so much that we can't survive without electricity. So if you have the ability to, and we have the ability to think big, we have the ability to really, really think big and dream big. And that will define the purpose, right? So I would leave you with this, right? How many of you know Elon Musk? All of us know Elon Musk, right? Do you know his birthday? No, we don't know his birthday. Okay. All of you know your birthdays? Come on, what question is that? How do you celebrate your birthday? How do you celebrate your birthday? Cut the cake. You probably go to an ashram. You give away sweets. You call your friends. You have a birthday party. And since we are college students, we have some other party, right? So all of that happens, right? You know what Elon Musk did on his 47th birthday? Anybody? Anybody? On his 47th birthday, he worked 24 hours. He worked 24 hours. And he is the richest man on the planet. The richest man on the planet, not celebrating, celebration for him because he has a purpose. Spending 24 hours is completely a mindset, a paradigm shift in terms of purpose for him. That's the reason in a short span of time, he has become the richest man on the planet. Richest man on the planet. And if you have to do something like that, you need to find that purpose. You need to find in terms of what is that you're going to define in 2028. Because when you looked at 2019, 5 years down the line, you are here in 2023. But when you move to 2028, you need to be in terms of having the control, saying, this is the destiny, these are things that I want to accomplish. I will leave you with this wonderful thought, Elon Musk spending 24 hours on his birthday because he has a purpose. Have you found yours?
Being a leader requires a lot of thought being put in the people and the organization. Thank you, sir, for making us understand the importance of purpose and values in an organization. Clear objectives, dreaming bigger, and having a purpose larger than ourselves. Thank you, sir, for your valuable insight.
We now come to the end of the first half of today's event. Thank you so much again to all the dignitaries for joining us. We will now break for lunch, requesting all the students to be seated until our dignitaries exit the auditorium.
Recording stopped.